Konohagakure was one of the strongest and most peaceful ninja villages. The sun was shining, and someone was running from a huge mob? Naruto was racing through the streets, running like a wild man. Behind him, a mob of both civilian and ninja alike was chasing after him. And by the looks of those weapons they were carrying, their intentions were not good. Now, normally one would ask why this mob was chasing a barely 6-year-old kid like he is the plague. This kid was the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox, Kyuubi no Kitsune, who had attacked Konoha and had resulted in the death of a great part of the village, including the best Hokage, or leader that Konoha had ever had, Konoha's Yellow Flash, Minato Namikaze, fourth Hokage. Because of that, some people thought poor Naruto was the demon and decided to take vengeance into their own hands. Now, Naruto was no easy catch. Being repeatedly chased, the kid had an abnormal stamina and speed. He was able to outrun A and BU, which were the village elites. Still, he had bad luck with this mob, which was filled with some Sharingan and Byakugan users. You see, there are two major clans that people love to praise: the Uchiha clan and the Hyuga clan. They both were praised for their Jutsus, Sharingan for the Uchihas and Byakugan for the Hyugas. Byakugan allowed the user to see 360 degrees around themselves, even past his own skull. It also allowed him to see far with a precision unmatched. It allowed one to see the chakra passages and the tenketsus. Tenketsus were points in the chakra paths that, if messed with, could make one person get his chakra cut or an augment in that region. Sharingan allowed a person to see chakra pathways, but not the tenketsus. Instead, it allowed a photographic memory. These two characteristics made the Sharingan a copy eye, capable of copying all non-Kikei Gunkai's techniques to be copied by a Sharingan user. In addition, the higher levels of Sharingan allowed the user to predict the enemy's moves before they happened, making them be one step ahead in battle. Finally, it allowed one to use Genjutsu just by looking at the enemy's eyes, making them one of the most terrible technique to use on anyone. So, it was no wonder that Naruto was having trouble running away from this mob. He turned to the right, but no fair dead end. A very afraid Naruto turned towards the only way out of that alley to find that the mob had already gotten there. They smiled, seeing the poor child look at them in fear. "Time to pay for what you did, you damned demon." Naruto stepped back. "What did I ever do to you? I don't know what you were talking about. Don't try to fool us. We know that this is all just your acting. You don't trick us, Kyuubi." In the distance, wearing dog mask, was an ANBU that was supposed to watch over Naruto. But he let the mob hit Naruto as they wished. "This is for what you did to Sensei, monster." The mob began to beat him up. Whether with simple fists or sticks, it didn't matter. Then one of them came closer and started to cut Naruto with a kunai. The pain was too much, and Naruto fainted from it. Just as they were about to finish with him, half of the mob fell down. A man appeared. He was a fairly tall, fair-skinned man having bright, red eyes with slits and long, spiky, blue hair that reached the center of his back. The man also has jaw-length bangs framing either side of his face, and he had red lines coming down his eyes, which looked like he was crying blood tears. He wore a simple black suit with a distinctive white fur collar. This armor was constructed from numerous blue metal plates, formed into multiple protective guards along his body, in particular, chest, waist, shoulders, and upper arms. This clothing was accompanied by sandals and a hapuri engraved with his clan's symbol, which was 4 leaf-like wings with a ring appearing in between the spaces. He also wore a short-sleeved, long black haori over his attire, decorated by lightning clouds motifs on the edges, with a kanji 4 storm dragon written vertically down the back and closed on the front by a thin, blue rope. This man was Ryoku Tatsumori, the youngest person in his generation to have ever been named Sannin after Orochimaru defected, and he was very livid at the moment to be seeing a mob attacking a child, and not just any child, no. The son of his 2 fallen friends Minato and Kushina. He then approached them while flaring his yokai energy, which he was drawing from his tenant, Suryu, the celestial guardian of the east and god of the roaring skies and thundering seas. He approached the mob with his sword fully drawn and poised to kill them all. "How dare you harm our Masuko-san? You will pay for your transgression with your lives," he said before charging into the mob, killing everyone who'd attacked his adopted son. Even the shinobi in the group didn't stand a chance, as that was one of the most powerful ninja and stepfather of the village. So, in a matter of minutes, they were all dead. Ryoko grabbed Naruto and wasn't at all surprised to see red chakra healing the wounds. Is Kyuubi healing him? But Ryoko couldn't think about that now. He had to save Naruto. He then performed a few one-handed seals, Bubin Bodhi Henkin, Mori Ryu no Tsubasa, partial body transformation, wings of the forest dragon. Then large leaf-like wings sprouted from his back, and he then moved them over Naruto's body. Ryuten, Mori Ryu no Shikafuku, draconic release, forest dragon's blessings. His wings then began to glow a soft light green as dust-like scales descended down onto the boy, healing all his injuries. When the boy was fully recovered, he dispelled his jutsu and carried the boy to the Hokage office. Sarutobi better have a good fucking reason why Naruto wasn't at my compound. And if the council had something to do with this, oh, they'll pay dearly for what happened to my son, the dragon Sannin thought to himself as he marched to his targeted destination. In Naruto's mindscape, Naruto woke up to find himself in a sewer-like place. He glanced around, hoping to find something, when he heard a voice. "Ha, you are awakened. Come, young Naruto, we have much to talk." Naruto went toward the voice to find a huge cage. He then saw two blood-red eyes looking at him from the other side. "Do you know who I am, Naruto?" KQBI asked a surprised and frightened Naruto. "Yes, and calm down, young one. I'm not going to harm you. I'm the only reason you are still alive anyway, and your stepfather has returned from his 3-year-long mission," QB said to the boy. "But you destroyed the village. Why would you help me? And why are you on a cage? Where are we anyway? And Dad's finally came back." QB was getting impatient with all his questions. "God, do you have to speak that loudly, kid? And stop asking so many questions and maybe I'll answer you." Naruto went silent. QB sighed. "Good. Now about your questions. We are in your mind. And before you ask, I'm here because your 4th Hokage put me here, and yes, your father is back, and from the way his chakra has spiked, I'm guessing he's rather livid at the moment. Impossible, he killed you." "And what do you mean by livid?" QB looked at him. "No, you idiot. If that was the case, he would be dead too. Anyway, he didn't kill me because he was unable to. Instead, he was able to seal me in you. That is why I am here and why I am in this cage. And since I'm sealed in you, I would die if you died. I don't want that yet, and your father is livid because you were supposed to be living at his compound. But I'm guessing something screwed up. Now, on to the other matters. I want to make a deal with you." QB was then interrupted. "Wait. What about why you attacked the village? And this proposition of yours? How do I know I can trust you?" "Oh, gods of all that is holy in this world. Not this again. Listen, hear the deal, and then you can ask your questions, child." Naruto shut up immediately. "Good. Now the thing is, I don't want a weak host. That would be insulting. So I'm offering my teachings so you can become stronger and a summoning contract to the Fox clan. All I ask is when you are strong enough, you kill a certain someone for me as part of my revenge. Now you can ask questions." Naruto thought for a while. "Why do you want me to kill this person? And this seems a lot for me, but little to you, don't you think?" Naruto asked, and the QB responded, "Those are good questions, kid. Now listen here. By making you stronger, I'm making myself feared. So that is a win-win situation for both of us. Second, that man was the reason why I attacked Konoha anyway. You see, this man is called Madara Uchiha. He had developed a new level of Sharingan, and that made him more powerful than I thought. It gave him the power to control me. He made me attack Konoha. He's the reason I am in this jail. You help me kill him, and I'll be forever in your debt." Naruto thought about it and answered, "Deal, and I ultimately feel sorry for the guy that screwed me over because Tusan, father, is going to be very mad." Naruto said was a foxy grin. QB then spooked. "Since you're having the opportunity, I'll have you know that foxes have a more natural affinity with fire and wind, though there are some that dominate the Kitsune arts, a set of magic powers and techniques that are very deadly. Now you have to wake up because we're approaching the Hokage Tower, Kyubi said with a smirk on its face. In Ryoku's arms as he approached the Hokage office. Ryoku, while holding his adopted son, kicked the door down, startling the Hokage inside from his paperwork. Ryoku then entered with a very angered look on his face, giving the aging Hokage a look of worry. Sarutobi was about to speak when he was interrupted. Call the council meeting now. I wish to discuss a few things regarding my son as to why he wasn't living at the compound after I left for my mission 3 years ago, the Sannin said with venom dripping off every word he said. The Hokage then looked at him. I thought he was living there upon your request, he asked the now pissed Sannin. Ryoku then retorted, then explain why I found him beaten to near death when I arrived at Konoha and got word from my dragon summonings that Naruto here has never came to the compound after I picked him up from the orphanage that kicked him out. Care to elaborate, Hokage? He asked, waiting to hear his answer. Sarutobi then, though, as to what happened after he sent the boy and a couple of Umbu to escort the boy to the Tatsumori compound when realization hit him, and he grew furious, and he was leaking killing intent, ANBU. As he announced, several members of his personal Umbu appeared from the shadows. Then the female Umbu, with a cat mask, announced, "What is your wish, Hokage-sama?" she said, trying to ignore the Ki from her Hokage. Sarutobi then turned to his Umbu, "Gather all council members at once. We have a couple of matters I wish to address regarding Naruto and him living at the Tatsumori compound," he said with a tone of Ki that screamed, "I'm going to kill those responsible." The Umbu then vanished in a massive swirl of leaves. Sarutobi then turned to Ryoku and Naruto, who was still in his arms and now fully awake. Naruto then stirred in his father's arms as to tell him that he was awake. Ryoku, after the boy got his attention, then set Naruto down. "Naruto, I'm so sorry for being gone all this time. Tell you what, after my council meeting is over, how's about we go on a training trip?" After asking this, Naruto's eyes lit up to what his father proposed. "You really mean that too, San?" the boy said with a face that screamed kawaii. Ryoku then patted the boy's head. "Yes, Naruto-chan, and when I'm through with you, you'll be strong enough to take on the other 2 Sannin on your own." At hearing this, Naruto passed out while foaming at the mouth, causing everyone in the room plus Kyubi and Sairyu to burst out laughing at the boy's reaction. Ryoku then summoned a small dragon and requested it to take the boy to the compound until he returned to take the boy on the training trip. At the same time, the Hokage sent the Umbu Weasel to accompany the summoning in taking the boy to his new home, that is the Tatsumori compound. After they have gone, Ryoku and Sarutobi left to the council to confront what had transpired. Council room. As the council members began to arrive, most of them were questioning why they were summoned when there wasn't to be a meeting next week. Most of the members had their suspicion as to why they were summoned, but wanted to wait until their Hokage arrived to fill them in on the situation. However, it didn't take long for their beloved leader to appear, but when they saw the person with him, most of the civilian council started to sweat, especially Danzo. However, his reason for sweating is a tad different. Damn it, he had to show up just before I could manage to lure the boy away from Sarutobi's sight, so I can mold him into my own personal weapon, thought Danzo as he was trying to find another to acquire the Kyubi Jinchuriki. Several members of the Ninja Council both feared and respected Ryoku ever since their time in the academy, as well as they were grateful of him for helping them find their soul mates and lovers. But Fugaku Uchiha was another story. In fact, he hated Ryoku because his wife left him to be with the man after she had their youngest son Sasuke and couldn't get her back because the dragon summonings that surround the Tatsumori compound would have killed him with no hesitation. However, he kept his newborn son and quickly soon remarried another female Uchiha, but it still pissed him off that she'd gone to him. The Hokage then cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen of the council, I'm sorry to have summoned you, but there's a certain I wish to address regarding Naruto Uzumaki," he said, trying to hold back his Ki. Throughout the council, the mere mention of the boy's name caused mixed feelings, but the most obvious one was malice towards the boy. Why should we discuss anything about that thing? One fat civilian council member said with hint of venom toward his last word. Ryoku then turned to the man. "That thing, as you call it, has a name, and while I'm here, I would like it if you addressed him as such," the Dragon Master said, trying to hold back every urge to kill the man. Then it was a blonde-haired civilian council member who spoke next. And why should we? That little monster doesn't deserve anything that entitles it as human. She said only to be verbally attacked by the Inuzuka head. Shut it. That boy is more human than most of you civilian council trash. She said, causing a majority of the civilian council to glare at her. But being an Inuzuka and a clan head backing down wasn't an option. The other ninja council members just looked at Som with one thought going through their mind: troublesome woman. But it wasn't until the Dragon Master decided to intervene. I thank you, Tsum-san, for defending the boy, but the reason why I asked the Hokage to call this meeting was to find out why Naruto never made it to my compound when I adopted him 3 years ago after the boy was kicked out of the orphanage at the age of 3. He asked. This question made a lot of people feel uneasy, especially for the civilian council and the 3 elders, because they knew full well that Ryoka loved the boy and would see that justice is served. Mabuki Hirno, the blonde-haired councilwoman, then spoke more like yelled, "You took that thing into your household. What were you thinking?" She asked him while he was cleaning out his ears, making sure they weren't bleeding. "Well, Ms. Banshee, I'm fully within my right to take in an orphan child, and so I decided to take in Naruto and to raise him as my own. But when I returned from my 2-year mission, my dragon summonings told me that Naruto never made it my compound. So I have a few theories as to why that happened, and one comes to mind," he said as he eyes the entire civilian council and then the elders. "You people had something to do with that, and I don't even have to ask why, because your silence is all the answer. I need to confirm that you stopped him from having a normal life, so that you can satisfy your own selfish desires while a child no older than 6 suffers," he said as Ki started to leak out from his body, causing everyone to have trouble breathing. The Hokage tried to speak, but Ryoka stopped him. "You people make me sick. I should kill you all where you stand, but I won't, because you're not even worth the effort. But instead, I'll make you worst nightmares a reality. I'll train the boy myself and make him as strong as I was when I defeated all 3 Sannin at the age of 16". When he announced this, the entire council paled. Ryoka then turned to the Hokage. "I'll return with the boy in 8 years' time. That'll be plenty of time for me to train the boy and maybe teaching a few of my own personal jutsu," he said with a large, toothy grin on his face. Koharu then spoke. "You will do no such thing. As the elder and advisor of the Hokage, you will not teach that thing anything," the female advisor said with a smug look on her face. But that didn't faze the man at all. "What makes you think that you have any say in the matter regarding the boy? Because last I checked, I'm a shinobi, a clan head, a Sannin, and most importantly, the boy's father. So the day I take orders from you or anyone from the council will be the day when hell freezes over," he said, while his eyes changed from their usual red to a sky blue with slit pupils. Koharu then took a step back while never taking her gaze off of his cold blue eyes. Then Ryoku closed his eyes, then turned to the Sandaime. He opened his eyes, revealing then to be his normal red eyes. "With your permission, Hokage-sama, I'll be taking the boy today to begin his training," he asked the Hokage, who was just grinned and nodded. "Very well, Ryoka-san, you may take the boy and begin his training. Though you just got back, I don't think your wife will take that lightly," he said, making Fugaka seethe at that remark. Ryoka himself then paled. "Oh fuck, I forgot to let her know that I've returned. I'll see you later, Sarutobi-san," he said as he vanished in a swirl of leaves. Sarutobi then chuckled at the way he took to that. "Ryoka, you are most definitely whipped," he thought to himself before turning to the rest of the council. Tatsumori compound. Naruto had just arrived with Weasel to the gate, the Tatsumori compound, where he was greeted by one of the gatekeepers. "I am Tatsudo, a gatekeeper to the Tatsumori clan." "State your business," the dragon said as he eyed the boy suspiciously. Then the boy said, "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. My adopted father is Ryoku Tatsumori," the boy announced to the gatekeeper. Then Weasel spoke. "I'm Weasel, and A and BU assigned to escort young Naruto here," the Umbu said to the dragon. The dragon's eyes widened at the boy's statement. "Young Uzumaki Naruto, we have been waiting for your arrival for 3 long years. Please come on, and your adopted mother would love to meet you," the dragon said as he opened the gates to the compound. As Naruto walked in, he stopped and looked at Tatsudo. "Wait, I have an adopted mother?" he asked the dragon, who then nodded. Naruto then got tear-eyed and ran into the compound looking for his new mother. As Naruto ran into the compound, Weasel smiled behind his mask. Then, in a flurry of crows, he left with the gatekeeper giving a toothy grin. So that was Mikoto-sama's oldest child and Ryoka's stepson. Would have been nice to see a reunion, but I guess the Umbu life is demanding of his talents as of the moment, Tatsudoa thought as he got back to guarding the compound entrance. Back to Naruto. As he ran through the compound, he ran across several other dragons that are assigned to do different tasks around the compound, until he found the garden where he saw a woman who is fair-skinned woman with long, black hair with bangs hanging on either side of her face to roughly frame her cheeks and black eyes. She wears the traditional attire of a Miko that consists out of a purple hakama with a symbol of a fan being surrounded by a dragon on the back, a white haori with a sash-like belt, wooden sandals, and a white ribbon to partially hold her hair in place. Naruto slowly approached the woman with caution as to not startle her. The woman then became aware of his presence and turned to meet the boy only for her eyes to widen slightly. This child has her face and his eyes, she thought, as she then fully turned to the boy as he approached her. She then spoke, "I am Mikoto Yu Tatsumori, and what is your name, young one?" she asked the boy in a soft, inviting tone. Naruto looked at her with a shy look to his face. "My name is Naruto." "Naruto Uzumaki," the boy said as he introduced himself, causing Mikoto's eyes to widen. "Uzumaki Naruto, as in Kushina-chan and Minato-san's son. What is he doing here?" Mikoto got over her general shock of who the boy is when she realized that he was the boy that Ryoku adopted before he left on his 3-year-long mission. Mikoto then smiled at the boy. "You must be tired, Naruto-chan. Let Mama take care of you," she said as she sat down in size a position so that the boy can rest on her lap, in which the young blonde did and drifted off to dreamland as Mikoto gently caressed his hair and whiskered cheek, humming a soft tone. As she was doing this, she then notices that Naruto was crying as if he had finally found what he had been looking for all his life, and home with a family to come home to. Ryoku, having come back from his council meeting, walked through the compound in search of the young blonde, but his search was halted as he heard his wife sing a soft lullaby. He followed the music and found her in the garden with a sleeping Naruto on her lap as she gently caressed his hair and whiskered face. The scene made the hardened warrior's heart melt because this is what the boy truly needed: the love of a mother and the warmth of a home to come home to, something that the civilian council, village elders, and Fugako deliberately deprived the boy from having. Mikoto then looked up and saw her husband looking at the scene with a soft look to his face that made her smile. After 30 minutes have passed, Ryoku then carried the now sleeping Naruto into a room that was his to own. The room had a Spartan feel to it with only a futon, 2 nightstands, and a dresser. But with time, Naruto would personalize his room to make it his own. The only thing that made the room stand out was a flag with the Uzumaki swirl and a WYRM eating its own tail as the outline. Ryoka then set the boy into the futon and tucked him into bed and left the room with his wife in tow. The two of them left the sleeping blonde and headed straight to the kitchen, where Mikoto started to prepare dinner, now for 3. As she was preparing dinner, her husband explained to her on what happened when he came back and what the council tried to do to their son and on what he decided to do about it. After saying his piece, Mikoto was angry because he just got home and now he had to leave again to train the boy. Ryoka then explained again why he was doing this and told her that he'd spend the night creating Horatian seal so that she could summon him when needed. This made her irritation lessened, but she was still mad that her husband wasn't staying for long. So in her mind, she decided to give him a night to remember, and with those seals, she'd call him for various nightly activities which involved her in slutty costumes. Knowing this, she giggled as naughty images ran through her head, and Ryoka took notice of this and sighed in knowing what was going on through her mind, and if those Ika books that he found that one time under the floorboard were any indication, it was something that involved that slutty nurse outfit he found in the closet. An hour has passed since Naruto was tucked into bed, as Mikoto finished making dinner and Ryoku setting the table. The two then noticed the young blonde has woken up and was standing in the hallway to the kitchen. Ryoku was the first to respond. "Hey Naruto, I see you're finally up. Well, don't just stand there. Grab a seat and dig in," he said as he motioned to the empty seat that rested between Ryoku and Mikoto. Naruto stood there, and his eyes began to water. Then the tears came down, and this worried the adults in the room. Mikoto approached the young blonde and hugged him. "It's okay, Naruto-chan, you're home," was all she said. Ryoka got up from his seat, approached his wife and adopted son, and hugged them. For the first time in his entire life, Naruto felt safe and loved by those whom claimed themselves his mother and father. Naruto then brought his hands up and returned a hug to his adoptive parents. This went on for 5 minutes until a grumbling noise was heard, and the adult looked at the blonde, who was now blushing, but tried to hide it as he buried his face into Mikoto's bosom. The three then walked over to the table and ate. After eating, Naruto went into his room, which Ryoku assigned one of his summonings to guard the boy in case the council decided to steal the boy in the dead of night. But it was a very slim chance, since the dragons that guard the compound made sure of that. But one can't be too careful. The two left to their room, where they got ready for bed. However, as Ryoka laid in his side of the futon, he could see his lover make her way to the closet and close the door behind her. After several minutes of waiting, Mikoto came out wearing her slutty nurse outfit. Seeing this, Ryoku activated a privacy seal to prevent anyone coming in and a soundproof seal to prevent anyone from listening in on their nightly activity. Lemon. Mikoto walked over to her husband's side of the bed and asked him to stand up to begin his examination. Mikoto almost jumped when she felt Ryoku grab her butt. "Geez, Ryoku, your pulse is so erratic," the cosplaying Uchiha commented, before she reached up with a free hand and put it on Ryoku's chest. "And your heart beat." "Oh my," Mikoto said in fake worry. "Is she? Oh, I can get used to this." Ryoka thought with a smirk, getting what she was doing. "My heartbeat is bad? What should I do?" he asked with fake fear. "Well, I might have to inspect your body for any other ailments," Mikoto informed in a serious tone, as she took a step back and pushed Ryoka down into the bed. "Please help me, nurse. I'll do anything," Ryoka said, as Mikoto stood over the brunette. The slutty nurse costume wearing Uchiha reached up and undid the straps that held her outfit together. "Oh, don't worry, Ryokoi. I'll do all in my power to make sure you're perfectly healthy," Mikoto replied, as she took off her costume, revealing a well-toned hourglass figure and a pair of black laced bra and panties. Ryoka was focused on her as she slowly removed her bra and panties. "What did I ever do to get such a devoted nurse?" he asked, as he watched the bra and panty set fall to the floor. The dragon Sannin looked at Mikoto with lust-filled eyes. She stood there completely naked. Ryoka looked and saw her perky D-cup-sized breasts, her flat-toned stomach, long, smooth legs, everything. "What's this?" Mikoto asked in shock as she looked down at the brunette's crotch. She went to her knees and reached forward and touched dent in Ryoku's pajama pants. "It's all hard. That's another symptom," she informed. "I think I know what you have," the pretend Mednin said. "Can you cure it?" Ryoku asked. "I think I know just the thing," Mikoto informed, as she reached forward, rubbed the dent with one hand, and unbuttoned his pants with her other hand. She leaned and closed as she pulled back the brunette's pants, before she was hit in the face by his extremely hard member. "Oh my, it's worse than I thought," she commented, as she wrapped one hand around the hard member and began to stroke it. Ryoka leaned his head and moaned slightly, as he felt Mikoto's soft, warm hand working him. She then leaned forward and licked the head of his member, as her free hand slowly moved down her own stomach before she inserted her finger into herself. While she stimulated herself, Mikoto began to take more of Ryoku's member into her mouth. After a few seconds, she pulled her head back and slowly stood up. "It would seem I have to give you a higher dosage," she informed, as she stood over the Sannin's member. Ryoka watched as his wife aimed his member upward before she lowered herself. He saw and felt as his hard member was guided into her wet nether lips. "Ah!" Mikoto sounded loudly, just as the head of his member entered her. Mikoto moaned loudly, as the member continued to rub and push her insides apart. She released a scream, as Ryoku's and her pelvises connected. He then raised an eyebrow when he heard Mikoto moaning to herself, as he fully entered her. "Yep, she's definitely a screamer. I always thought it was just for that one night, but damn, hearing those moans is making me harder, he thought. I'm grateful to have activated those seals. If not, the whole compound would be hearing this, and I don't want to scar Naruto for life when it comes to things like this. Kushina-sama, Mito-sama, I thank you for teaching me such a valuable art, he thought while thanking the Uzumaki clan for teaching him the ways of the sealing arts. I think you might need a little help, nurse. Ryoka commented. Before Makoto could ask what that meant, she felt something hard poking her cheek. She turned and saw another brunette standing on top of bed, with his hard member out. Makoto looked at it for a second before she felt a hand behind her head. Come on, Nurse Makoto. You're working so hard to cure us. You deserve something, so open that hot mouth of yours. The clone said. Ryoka moaned slightly when he felt Makoto get tighter and wetter. Makoto slowly opened her mouth and stuck out her tongue. The clone put the head of his member on her tongue before he slowly guided himself into her mouth. Makoto released a gagging sound as the member hit the back of her throat. The clone grabbed the back of the Uchiha's head and began to thrust in and out of her mouth. Ryoka watched as his clone face fuck his wife with some hidden jealousy before he reached forward and grabbed Makoto's waist. He began to bounce the Uchiha up and down on his member as he slowly thrust up. The sound of loud gagging, slurping, and stifled moans echoed off the room. Makoto allowed her arms to fall limp, as her face and throat was fucked by a Ryoka clone and her nether lips were fucked by Ryoka himself. The clone grabbed Makoto's black hair as it began to roughly thrust into her mouth and throat. Ryoka let go of Makoto as she bounced herself on him. While she was bouncing, Ryoka leaned forward and grabbed a hold of her D-cup-sized breasts. The brunette wrapped his lips around her left nipple and used his tongue to play with it, while he massaged her right breast with his hand. Only after a few seconds would he alternate between the two. Makoto's moans got louder, that even with the member in her mouth, she could still be heard. Ryoka felt Makoto's insides quiver as she began to grind against him erratically. She pulled her head back from the clone's hard member as she reared her head back and released a loud moan as she reached her orgasm. Makoto sat there and panted heavily before her eyes went wide when she felt her husband was still hard in her. Geez, Ryokoi, this is worse than I thought, she informed as she slowly pulled herself off of his member. I guess I have to administer the ultimate cure, she stated as she crawled to the foot of the futon and raised her ass into the air. Ryoku then got up on his knees and crawled towards her as he held his member. Makoto reached back with one hand and spread her ass cheeks as she distanced her legs apart. Ryoka looked down and saw her butthole clench and unclench before he brought the head of his member up to it. Since his member was drenched in her juices and saliva, he thought it would be fine. Makoto dug her nails into the futon as Ryoku's head pushed itself into her butt. The Uchiha closed her eyes and gritted her teeth as Ryoku pushed himself deeper. Makoto opened her eyes and saw a clone in front of her, with his hard member coated in her saliva, as another clone appeared underneath her, penetrating her already wet pussy. Makoto knew what to do before she opened her mouth and relaxed. Just as she did that, the clone thrust his hard member into her mouth and throat, to finish as the other clone began to thrust into her pussy. When the dragon Sannin saw his clone's throat fucking and vaginal fucking Makoto, he reached down to his wife's waist and in one moment thrust his entire member into her anal cavity. Makoto released a pain-filled scream, but it was cut off by the members down her throat and deep in her pussy. Makoto's eyes rolled to the back of her head as she was fucked in tandem, with her throat, her pussy, and ass fucked roughly, and she loved every second of it. The lewd sounds got louder and louder before the clone held Makoto's head still as he thrust himself into her throat. Makoto's nose hit the clone's pelvis before her face slowly began to turn red. The clones released a sigh of relief as she felt warm seed shoot down her throat and in her pussy before the clones vanished. Makoto panted and coughed before she started moaning loudly again. Ryoka began to thrust into Makoto's ass with more vigor as he felt himself approaching. "And Mikoto, I'm coming," he said. "Ah, ah, ah, don't stop," she loudly moaned. Ryoku pulled back slightly and grabbed onto one of Mikoto's legs before he flipped her over on her back. Mikoto's back rested on the bed as she watched Ryoku thrust into her. The brunette thrust roughly and quickly into Mikoto. The two released loud moans as Ryoku came inside of Mikoto. The Uchiha leaned her head back and released a sigh as she felt warm liquid shoot into her lower bowels. In lemon. Ryoka then pulled out of her and looked at his handiwork. As he watched his wife pant, he then caught the scent of a woman in heat. His wife was giving off the smell and knew full well what that meant. She was ovulating, and after this intense session of sex, she'll most likely be pregnant. Ryoka's mind was going a million miles per hour of what parent life would be like, but got over it after a while and thinking that being a parent to a child with Mikoto will be an excellent experience, and with young Naruto being the big brother, it'll be one big happy family. Mikoto then crawled to her husband's side and rested her head on his chest over his heart. She snuggled closer to fully embrace the man that took her in when she was kicked out of her clan by her ex-husband, when she spoke out just weeks after giving birth to Sasuke, who unfortunately was already in the clutches of Fugaku and was already molding him into the prefect Mimimi, and where he failed with Itachi Uchiha, he succeeded with the young Uchiha heir. Ryoku then snaked his left arm around her shoulders and brought her closer. He then placed his right hand over where her womb is located and gently caressed it. "I know today was a non-safe day, Mikoto-chan. You were reeking of pheromones as if you were a Rathian, monster hunter monster, and in this fan fiction a summoning. In heat," he said, getting a blush out of Mikoto trying, but failing to hide her embarrassment. Ryoka then sighed and kissed her forehead. "I do look forward to what it'll be," he said with a smile on his face, and Mikoto looking up in shock. To her, hearing her husband that he looked forward to being a father was both surprising and joyous. Tears formed in her eyes, and she kissed him on the lips. She then broke away and rested her head on the crook of his neck. "And I look forward to mothering our child, dear husband," was all she said before drifting off to dreamland with Ryoku, following her example. The next day, both Ryoku and Naruto were standing in front of the main gate before departing on their 8-year-long training trips throughout the elemental nations. Mikoto and Sarutobi Hijrand were there to see them off and to say their goodbyes. Sarutobi then pulled Ryoku away for a minute, wishing to have a word with the Tatsumori clan head, in which Mikoto agreed as she hugged and kissed her adopted son, wishing him good luck on his trip with his father, something Naruto looked forward to. With Ryoku and Sarutobi ****. Both Ryoku and Sarutobi stopped when they were out of hearing range of the two. When they stopped, "So, any reason why you decided to pull me away from my family, Hokage-sama?" the Tatsumori clan head asked. The aging Hokage took a deep breath. "Ryoku, you know that I'm getting too old for this position and that I want to retire and spend my twilight years with my family before joining with my ancestors," he said, getting Ryoka's attention. Then the Hokage continued, "So that is why I've finally decided on a successor," he said, which really got Ryoka's attention. "Okay, Hokage-sama. So, who's the poor? I mean luck bastard," he said, quickly correcting himself. Sarutobi then smiled an evil smile, which made Ryoka nervous. "I choose you, Ryoku Tatsumori, as my successor, and before you deny the title, the daimyo himself made you my successor upon your return in 8 years from now, so no worming your way out of this one," he said, while chuckling at the face of dread of having the title of Hokage when he returns to Konoha, and with the daimyo making the pick himself, there was no way he could say no. Swallowing his bile and steadied his nerves, he managed to not only calm himself down, but also managed to stop himself from killing the old man outright. "Very well, Sarutobi, I'll take the title of Hokage, but know this, and know this well, Hokage-sama. Once I take the title, there will be major changes, starting with the civilian council and the elders who've stayed in power for far too long," he stated, getting a nod from the current Hokage. Ryoku then turned and left Sarutobi to his thoughts of finally passing on the mantle to someone else and to be finally rid of having to do paperwork. Back to family. Upon his return, Ryoku explained to his family of how, when he returns to Konoha, that he'll be named Godame Hokage of Kanehagakure no Sato. This news got different reactions, off from Naruto and irritation from Mikoto, both of which were completely understandable. So he told his wife to abuse the Hiratian seals whenever she could so that they could have their alone time, something that Mikoto looked forward to doing. Mikoto then kissed her husband and son one last time, before the two turned and left the village, never to return until their time was up, and by then the two will turn the village of Konoha onto its head, something Ryoku and Naruto looked forward to do. Chapter 2, Part 1. The Return. 8 years later. It had been 8 years since the departure of the dragon Sannin and his protege, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Within those 8 years, the citizens of Konoha dreaded the day they would return. However, the same couldn't be said for the Sandaime Hokage, who in fact looked forward to their return, especially for Ryoku. To return, for Sarutobi had chosen him to take his place as the Godame Hokage upon his return. Something that Hiruzen Sarutobi was looking forward to, because he can now finally retire and not have to do paperwork ever again. Finally, finishing with the last stack of paperwork, the old man opened his drawer, took out his pipe, stuffed some of his favorite tobacco, then lighted the tobacco in his pipe, and took a puff. He then pulled out an all-too-familiar orange book and gave a perverted giggle. "Hitomi, you naughty girl," he said as his secretary walked in with a new stack of paper from his sign. Upon seeing this, he dropped his book and his pipe fell from his mouth. When a stack of paper was plopped onto his desk, the aging warrior finally snapped, random style. "Flip the table in no jutsu." He yelled in a fit of rage as he literally flipped his own desk, causing all the both signed and unsigned documents to land all over the room. This scene caused the four hidden Umbu to sweat drop, the secretary to look at the Hokage with an embarrassed look, and the Sandaime to look at the room and cry anime tears. "Please, Ryoku, come back so that I may retire in peace," the old warrior yelled as he pleaded for his successor to return. Meanwhile, several miles from the village gates, a hooded figure sneezed, catching the attention of the other 3 hooded figures. "Is something the matter, sensei?" the white hooded figure asked, getting a concerned look from the yellow and orange hooded figures. The blue hooded figure looked at the other 3. "I'm fine, Fuchan. I believe the old monkey of Konoha is cursing me for leaving for so long. I can easily imagine the amount of paperwork he's had to do for the past 8 years. The absolute moment I stepped out of Konoha," the blue hooded figure said as he removed his hood, revealing his face. Ryoku's face showed every little change, only that he developed cresses similar to Itachi, and his hair had grown out, now reaching his lower back, and his bangs are now at shoulder length. He then turned to his students. "I believe it's time to reveal ourselves to the people of Konoha, Naruto, Gaara, and Fu," he said as they removed their hoods, revealing their faces to their sensei. The first was a boy about 13 years old. He had messy red hair, teal eyes that were surrounded by black rings, signifying the lack of sleep. Over his left eye was the kanji for love etched into his forehead, and on his back was a gourd that appeared to be made of sand. The second was a girl who appeared to be 15 years of age. She has short mossy green hair and orange eyes. She has a dark tan complexion to her skin. She carries a long white cylindrical tube on her back. The final was a boy exactly 14 years old. He had spiky blonde hair with red streaks at the tips and had jaw-length bangs framing either side of his face. The blonde had a sapphire eye, while the other eye was covered by a black eye patch. He also has 6 whisker marks on his face, 3 on each side. On his back, he carried a large sword that was wrapped in white bandages and a yellow hilt that led to a tiny skull. These 3 were Gaara no Sabaku, Funanabai, and Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the official students of the Dragon Sannin Ryoku Tatsumori and the soon-to-be Neo Sannin of Kanehagakure no Sato. Chapter 2, Part 2. The Return. Kotetsu Hagane and Izumo Kamizuki, 2 chunin of Konoha, were charged with gate duty. Again, the 2 were playing a game of shogi while drinking tea and eating dango. Kotetsu yawned, catching Izumo's attention away from the board. "Izumo-san explained to me how we got gate duty again. he asked his friend as he picked up a dango stick and ate it. Izumo then sighed and looked at Kotetsu. I think it may have something to do with nothing ever happening here, and all the other assignments are on a first-come, first-served basis. So everything got picked except for this, he said as he turned his attention back to the game, as he studied his next move. Kotetsu looked off into the distance, wishing that something would happen, and Kami, being the ever-loving deity that she was, decided to grant him his wish. Kotetsu looked off through the open gate and noticed 4 figures heading this way. He nudged his friend, getting his attention and pointing him to the group that just passed the gates. They immediately recognized the blonde and the brunette, but the other 2 they didn't, so they assumed that the other 2 might be Ryoka-sama's other students from what Hiruzen has told them about. Kotetsu grinned. Well, I guess that things are finally going to pick up around here, he asked, getting a nod from Izumo, agreeing with his friend wholeheartedly. The group then stopped as Ryoku approached the gatekeepers. Ryoku Tatsumori, Naruto Uzumaki are returning to Konoha from our 8-year training trip, and the 2 accompanying me are Gara no Sabaku and Fun Nanabai, who wish to become citizens and shinobi of Kanehagakure no Sato, he said as he handed them their passports. The 2 Chunin then examined their identification and approved, as well as checking the manifest for their names. I see the names here in your IDs. Check out welcome back, Ryoka-sama, Izumo said as he handed back their passports. He's got a grin out of the Tatsumori clan head who then pulled out a small scroll. It's good to be back, Hagane-san, Kamizuki-san. Here, take this for your trouble, he said as he handed them a scroll. Those are treats from Suki no Kuni, Moon Country, so enjoy the moon pies, as the duo thanked him for the exotic treats. Ryoku returned to his students. All right, I want you 3 to head for my compound. I'll go to the Hokage Tower to let Suratobi know of our return and to register you 3 into the academy so that you can graduate and become much closer to your goal, he said as he disappeared in a swirl of blue lightning. Naruto then turned to Gaara, and Fuhu then nodded, then shunshined on swirls of sand, beetles, and blue flames. Hokage Tower. After having to clean up his mess, Hiruzen was once again doing paperwork when he heard a knock at his door. Come in, was all he said, giving permission to whoever it was knocking to enter. The door opened, revealing Ryoku, still wearing his cloak. Suratobi-san, it's good to see you again, he said with a cheery tone. The aged Hokage then put down his pen. Ryoka-san, welcome back. I take it that the training trip with Naruto and the other 2 you'd mentioned in your report a few years back as born fruits, he asked his soon-to-be successor, who then proceeded to pull out a black book and handed it to Hiruzen. Turn to pages 135, 46, and 58. I'm sure that the results in that bingo book could speak volume of how successful my training trip with my 3 students was, he said with overwhelming confidence. Saratobi didn't waste any time and proceeded to turn to the pages Ryoka mentioned, and surely enough, he wasn't disappointed, but was shocked at what he had read. Bingo book entry number 1. Full name, Ryoku Tatsumori. Aliases / nicknames, Dragon Emperor, Dragon Sannin, and Storm Dragon of Konoha. Age, 300 years old, appears to be in his 30s. Birthday, April 30th. Gender, male. Rank, Sannin. Village of origin, Kanehagakure no Sato. Status, clan head. Elements, lightning, water, and wind subelement. His ice, storm, plasma. Clan, Tatsumori clan. Clan bloodline, dragon release, Ryuten, Tai. Hokage, on par with Might Dai. Nin, Hokage Jin. Low Jonin, can detect and break hyper-rank Jinjutsu-kin. Hokage, on par with Kushina in her prime, and the 7 swordsmen of the mist. Fuin, Low Kage, on par with an Uzumaki seal expert. Irio, Low Kage's son. True sage level summonings. Universal dragon summoning contract, meaning he can summon the main and subspecies of dragons such as wyverns, hydras, WYRMS, etc. Threat level, 0 rank, note, don't approach. Flee on sight, rewards, Odo, 500 million, dead or alive. IWA, 100 million, alive, /0, dead, Suna. 350 million, dead or alive. Bingo book entry number 35. Full name: Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze Tatsumori. Aliases / nicknames: the second coming of the Yellow Flash / Fox Mage. Age: 14. Birthday: October 10th. Gender: male. Honk en Ua. Village of origin: Kanahegakure no Sato. Status: clan head. Elements: all elements sub-element, all sub-elements. Clan: Uzumaki and Namikaze. Clan bloodline: Chakra chains and Rinnegan Tai. Kage, on par with Might Guy. Nin: Haikage Jin. John Nin can detect and break Hyperink Jintifikin. Haikage, on par with Kushina in her prime and the Seven Swords into the Mist. Fuin: Haikage, on par with an Uzumaki Seal Master. Irio: John Nin's son. True Sage level summonings: Fox / Kitsune threat level. High A rank / low S rank. Note: approach with extreme caution. Rewards: Oto: 100 million, dead or alive. IWA: 50 million, alive /0 dead. Bingo book entry number 46. Full name: Gaara no Sabaku. Aliases / nicknames: Demon of the Sand / Tanuki Thief. Age: 13. Birthday: January 19th. Gender: male. Honk en Ua. Village of origin: Sunagakure no Sato, former. Status: not applicable. Elements: wind, earth, and lightning sub-element. Magnetism, sand, and blast / explosion. Clan en Ua. Clan bloodline: not applicable Tai. Low Jonin Nin. Low Kage Jin. Low Jonin can detect and break Hyperink Jinjutsukin. Kage Fuin. Jonin Irio. Jonin's son. True Sage level summonings: Tanuki threat level. High A rank. Note: approach with extreme caution if sand and area run. Rewards: Suna: 100 million, alive /0 dead. IWA: 50 million, alive /0 dead. Bingo book entry number 58. Full name: Fu. Aliases / nicknames: Beetle Queen / Beetle Knight. Age: 15. Birthday: August 8th. Gender: female. Honk en Ua. Village of origin: Takigakure no Sato, former. Status: not applicable. Elements: wind, earth, and water sub-element. Not applicable. Clan en Ua. Clan bloodline: not applicable Tai. Low Jonin Nin. High Jonin Jin. High Chunin can detect and break low Barang Jinjutsu Kin. High Jonin Fuin. High Chunin Irio. High Jonin's son. True Sage level summonings: Beetle summoning contract threat level. High A rank. Note: approach with extreme caution if beetles and area run. Rewards: Taki: 100 million, alive /0 dead. IWA: 50 million, alive /0 dead. After reading the bingo book, the Sannin was astonished to have learned that his soon-to-be successor had trained 3 young individuals into becoming what set out to do: make a team that'll one day rival his own and one day take their place as the Sannin of Konoha. However, what got his attention was that all 3 of Ryoka's students were Jinchuriki, Naruto being the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi no Kitsune, while Gaara contained Ichibi no Shikaku and young Funanabai no Kabuto Mushi. But what got his attention was that the other 2 hailed from other villages: Gaara from Suna and Fu from Taki. Also, what caught his attention was that Naruto had taken his blood father's name. So he can assume that either Ryoka had told him of his heritage, or Kyuubi had told him of who his parents were. Sarutobi wanted to ask how he got these 2 to become his students, and of how Naruto learned of his connection to Minato Namikaze, but figured he would leave it for another time. As he put the book away, Ryoka then gave him a small scroll similar to the one he gave to Izumo and Kotetsu earlier, a gift from all over the elemental nations, a box of assorted tobacco, he said as Sarutobi received his gift with a smile. Hiruzen then put his gift in his drawer with his stash of Aika, then turned to his brunette friend. Ryoka, why don't you head home and let your family know that you've returned? The coronation to you becoming Hokage isn't until after the graduation of the current academy students, and I'll have your students join the graduating class for their final exams, he said. Ryoku then smiled. Mikoto-han will most likely kill me if I don't show, and my children have waited a long time to see their father, he said right before he shunshed into his compound. Tatsumori compound. Naruto, Gaara, and Fu stood outside of the compound with Tatsudoa greeting them. Welcome back, Naruto-sama. I take it that your training trip has bared powerful fruit? The gatekeeper asked the young blonde. Naruto nodded, giving the dragon his answer. It's good to see you again, Tatsudoa. These are my teammates, my brother Gaara, and my girlfriend Fu, he said as the blonde introduced his companions. The dragon then gave the blonde a toothy grin. Girlfriend, huh? Mikoto-sama is going to have a field day with this. Not to mention the children would love to see the one who stole their precious Oni-chan, especially young Setsuna and young Satsuki, the dragon remarked. At this, Naruto blushed as he remembered when he came to visit with Ryoku via Hiration to celebrate her children's 7th birthday. Both Setsuna and Satsuki, and twin daughters of Ryoku and Mikoto, developed a crush on their older brother, something that both Ryoku and Mikoto found cute. Gaara and Fu then tease him on his situation involving his sisters. Then the group notices a mob of civilians approaching their direction. This confused the group and irritated the gatekeeper. Naruto-sama, take your friends inside, the dragon said in a serious tone. Naruto, not wanting to disobey one of his father's summonings, motioned his friends to follow him into the compound. The gate closed behind them, and a seal was placed over the gate, and other dragons started to gather on top of the tiles on the wall. Leave now, humans. You're not welcomed here. Inside the compound, Naruto and his companions. Upon entering the compound, they were greeted by both dragons and young Uchiha children, who Ryoku saved and adopted after the massacre. And I'll type the events of the massacre next chapter. The two that stood out in front of the group were two twin girls. Both were carbon copies of their mother, but had blue streaks in their black hair. Then they ran and tackled Naruto to the ground. Welcome back, Oni-chan, they yelled in unison. Then the next thing he knew, all the children followed the twins' example and dogpiled on the poor blonde, much to his dismay and to the entertainment of his companions who were laughing at Naruto's situation. As this was going on, the door opened up and revealed the lady of the Tatsumori clan, Mikoto Yu. Tatsumori. She wore an outfit similar to when he met her. She now wears a navy blue hakama with symbol of a fan being surrounded by a dragon eating its own tail on the back, a black haori with a sash-like belt and wooden sandals. As she saw her oldest son being buried under a mountain of children, she put a sleeved hand to her mouth and giggled. Oh my Sochi-kun, it would seem that your fans have dogpiled you, she said with a smile on her face. Naruto finally managed to claw his way out from under the mountain of tiny bodies, stood up, and hugged his adopted mother. I'm home, Kasen, he said as Mikoto gave a hug to him. It's good to see you again, Naruto-chan. Now where's my husband? She asked in a sweetly tone that promised pain. Tusan went to the Hokage to report our return and to sign me and my team up to the academy to become an official Genin team. To Konoha, he quickly responded, fearing for his health. She released her son and sighed. You and him only ever visit twice a year since the twins were born, only to celebrate either the children's birthday or mine, and now that he's finally home and he decides to visit the Hokage instead of his beautiful and loving wife. I swear his priorities are completely messed up, she said as she released her killing intent, and the image of a Hanya mask with 4 red eyes appeared behind her. At the sight of this, everyone, even the dragons, were against the wall, shivering in fear as the eyes of the Hanya mask started to glow and black smoke sipped out of its partially open mouth, revealing its teeth. Naruto, asked Gaara. Yeah, the frightened blonde responded. Your mom is scary, he said, getting a nod for his Jinchuriki brother. Meanwhile, outside the compound, Ryoka was standing outside the compound looking at the unconscious bodies of various civilians, shinobi, and the remains of Umbu with blank masks with the kanji for no on the masks, which made the Tatsumori's expression scowl further. He always knew that Danzo has been trying to get his people to sneak into his compound to steal his clan's secrets, and now the Uchiha children that he saved during the massacre. His children. He made it a mental note to kill him and the civilian council who have been meddling in shinobi affairs ever since they came into power during the Second Great Shinobi War. He then witnessed his dragons eating one of the Naumbu that was still alive. The Naumbu's head turned to him, and he extended his arm, asking for help. Please. Help me, he begged. Ryoka looked at him and extended his arm and pointed to him. He then gathered chakra at the tip of his finger. No was all he said. He then shot the ball, and it went through the Naumbu's head, killing him. The dragons then pounced at the now dead Naumbu and began eating him. Ryoku then passed by the carnage and opened the doors to his compound and walked in only to see his wife releasing her killing intent and his kids plus summonings against the wall cowering in fear. He chuckled a bit and closed the doors to conceal the carnage from the eyes of the children. Karasaheim, I'm home, he said, announcing his presences to his wife, who then turned her attention to him. Her attitude did a complete 180 as her Hanya mask disappeared, and she tackled him and embraced him in a hug. He then pulled in closer and kissed her in the lips. At this, Naruto summoned a bunch of clones and covered the eyes of all the children, much to their dismay and to his relief that his siblings won't be scarred for life. When Mikoto pulled away, she looked at her husband with a loving look. Welcome back, Ryoka Koi, she said as she laid her head against his chest. It's so nice to be in your embrace again, she said in a dreamily tone. And it is wonderful to feel you in my arms again, Mikoto Heim, she said in a low, husky tone. The two were so deeply in love, but was interrupted by a cough. The couple then turned to where the cough came from and saw multiple Narutos covering the eyes and ears of the children. The multiple Narutos, along with the original Naruto, Gaara, and Fu blushing up a storm for their public display of affection. To-san, Ka-san, not to be a killjoy, but can you please keep it PG in front of the children, Naruto said while Gaara and Fu nodded as to agree with their blonde teammate. Both Ryoku and Mikoto were blushing in realizing what they were doing, and in front of young children no less. The two separated and quickly fixed themselves as Naruto dispelled his clones. Ryoku was the first to respond as he cleared his throat. Well, it's been a hectic day, so I suggest that you three get accommodated with the room that were previously set up for you during your stay in my compound, because knowing each of you after the Chunin exams, y'all may leave to find your own place, or in Naruto's case, inherit his family's estate, or stay. He said, getting a positive response for his three students who then went to their own rooms, or in the case of Naruto, and Fu decided to move in together. After they've gotten settled in, and after a nice dinner with the whole family, they all went to bed and eagerly waited for their chance for greatness. For Ryoku, it was his coronation to the mantle of Hokage, and for Team Jinchuriki, it was their chance at being official Genin. This is a filler episode. Ryoku had just finished tucking the last of his children to bed. He walked to the doorway and turned to view his children as they slept. As he looked at their sleeping faces, he then remembered the night that all these children came into his and his wife's care. It was during the dreadful night of the Uchiha massacre where both he and Itachi took part of the slaughter of the clan. Flashback, 7 months after he and Naruto had left Konoha. As Ryoku was getting ready for bed, he then felt a tug from one of his Horatian seals that he'd left with Mikoto in case she ever needed him, and boy did she abuse the hell out of them. He then teleports back to his compound. When he arrives, he was standing in front of his very pregnant wife and his stepson Itachi Uchiha, who was wearing his Umbu uniform and looked at the clan head with a very serious look. Ryoku-sama, I called for you because I have a request, he said, making both Mikoto and Ryoka look at the young Uchiha heir with a shocked look. This came as a surprise to the two adults because this was the first time that Itachi has ever asked Ryoku for anything, and if he had to call him for a favor or a request, then it must be serious. Getting over his shock, Ryoku then nodded, "Very well, but I want to hear what led to the situation that needed you to summon me," he said in a serious tone. Itachi agreed, had told him everything from the plan of a coup to the Hokage trying to negotiate with Fugaku to avoid any bloodshed. As he explained the situation, Itachi watched their reaction, and they were as he predicted. Ryoku was furious that Fugaku would go so far as to stage a coup to basically stroke his own pride and ego, and Mikoto was angry as well as disappointed that her ex-husband would be so arrogant as to think of such a thing. Itachi then took a deep breath and got to his request. "Ryoku-sama, my request is for you to save all the children and unborn from what I've been assigned to do." When he said this, he got their attention. Mikoto then spoke, "And what would that be?" she asked, fearing the answer. Itachi then looked at them dead in the eyes. "I've been assigned to kill the entire Uchiha clan." When he said this, Ryoku and Mikoto were shocked. Mikoto then started to cry, and Ryoku then comforted her. "Itachi, are you sure that there's no other way?" Ryoku asked, trying to find a way around the order. Unfortunately, the Uchiha heir slowly shook his head. "This is why I'm asking you to save the children and unborn. They're innocent in all this. But leave Sasuke alone, for I have plans for him, by making him the martyr for the clan," he said, making the two look at him in shock again. Ryoku then spoke. "Itachi, do you know what that means? You'd be labeled a missing Nin and Sasuke an avenger," he said as Mikoto cried, and knowing that her oldest child will live a life on the run, while her youngest would be an avenger with his sole purpose in life would be to kill Itachi out of revenge. Itachi then gave a sad smile. "I'm afraid I have no choice," he said as he shed a single tear in knowing what he had to do in order to protect Konoha and his little brother. Ryoku then approached Itachi and did something that the soon-to-be former Umbu captain never expected from his stepfather. Ryoku pulled him into a hug. "No matter what happens, no matter what you'll become because of this, just remember that you'll always have a place here with me, your mother and the soon-to-be-born children," he said as he looked toward the smiling Mikoto, who still had tears in her eyes. Itachi shed more tears. "Thank you, Ryoku-say. No, stepfather, mother, we don't have much time before Sasuke gets back from his training. We must make haste," he said, making Ryoku nod his head in agreement with his stepson. Ryoku left to his clan armory, and after 5 minutes, he returns wearing his old Yuzushiokure Umbu uniform, which was identical to the one Itachi wore, but the mask has the Uzumaki swirl on the forehead of the mask. He then kissed his wife and joined Itachi's side. "I'm heading out, my love," he said as both he and Itachi vanished via Shanshin. "Be safe," was all Mikoto said. Uchiha District. Both Ryoku and Itachi appeared in the middle of the Uchiha District with only the light of the moon shining down upon them. The Tatsumori clan head then summoned several large dragons, known as dragon broodmothers. These dragons are capable of being surrogate mothers to any species as long as the embryo, fetus, or baby that's extracted from the biological mother is alive. Ryoku then ordered them to kill all the pregnant mothers and extract their unborn children from their wombs, while he kidnapped the children who were 5 years or younger, and Itachi killed the rest. 30 minutes later, Ryoku reappeared in the center of the district with a sealing scroll attached to his hip containing all the children he could find, and the broodmothers appeared with swollen wombs filled with unborn children. They disappeared in a cloud of smoke. He then heard the screams of Sasuke Uchiha, who was running out of the main house yelling, "Don't kill me," and Itachi appeared in front of him and knocked him out. Ryoku then summoned several pixie dragons and ordered them to take the Sharingan of all the Uchiha that were killed, because he knew that even dead, an Uchiha's eyes, if transplanted, could be a powerful tool for anyone. And foreshadowing. Ryoku then approached his stepson, who was crying for having to stain his hands in the blood of his kin. He then explained to Itachi that his part in this was complete and that the children and the unborn were safe, and to take extra precaution, he had sent his pixie dragons to collect the Sharingan from every fallen Uchiha. Something that Itachi agreed to, knowing that those eyes will be kept away from those who wanted them for their own gain. Both Ryoku and Itachi knew that they didn't have much time before the Umbu appeared on the scene, so they said their goodbyes and left. All the dragons returned to their master with Sharingan eyes in their claws, showing that they've completed their task. They dispelled themselves, thus returning to the summoning realm, and he too himself vanished via Shunshin. End of flashback. Ryoku then closed the door to his children's door and started to make his way to his room, which he shared with his wife. As he did, he passed by the rooms of his students who were fast asleep, while Gaara was asleep while Naruto and Fu were. Let's just say the silencing seal on the door was a good indication of what's happening in the room. He finally made to his doorway, opened his door, entered and closed it. Chapter 3: Graduation, Coronation, and Sensei Assigned. Part 1. It's morning in Konoha. The sun was shining in the blue skies above. The birds were singing as they flew over the village, and everyone was getting ready to start the day, especially for the young academy students, since today was their final exam to become Genin of Konohagakure no Sato. No students were happier than Naruto and his teammates, Gaara and Fu, who were just registered to take the graduation class along with the other students. Gaara, who called it cheating our way, Naruto calls it getting in with what's needed to pass, and Fu, along with their sensei, calls it skipping 4 years of learning nothing useful for those who were serious about their shinobi career. As the three raced toward the academy via roof hopping, they noticed that they were being tailed by blank-masked shinobi, but were quickly dispatched by Ryoku's ever-present dragon summonings via dive bombing. Naruto, Gaara, and Fu smiled in knowing that their father/sensei was protecting them. When they arrived, they noticed that they were the only ones at the academy, so they got in the ninja way. The three snuck in and made their way to the classroom, where they waited by doing their own thing. Gaara was reading a book called The Art of War. Fu was doing maintenance on her hidden blades to ensure that they're in working condition, and Naruto was meditating and talking to his inner demons. Naruto's Mindscape. Within his mindscape, Naruto stood in the center of a circle with 2 lit candles, and think of when Hagoromo Otsutsuki said his farewell to the bijou when they were first created. Standing in front of him was a giant wolf with sliver fur with black streaks, 10 long and slender tails, and 3 eyes, with the third being in the center of its forehead. This is the mighty Jubi no Ukami, but she likes the name Katsumi. But one must ask how Naruto possessed the 10-tailed, when Hagoromo split the beast into 9 different niddies and were scattered only for 8 of the 9 bijou to be pawned off by Hashirama to bring peace throughout the elemental nations. While during their travels, Ryoku had developed a seal in which he could steal a bijou without killing the Jinchuriki, but said Jinchuriki would still possess some of the bijou's power as well as any physical traits that they acquired when they became Jinchuriki. Both Gaara and Fu gave half of their bijou to Naruto willingly. Han and Rashi of Iwabakure no Sato were unfortunately killed, since like all of IWA, they too held a grudge against the Yondaime Hokage. So when they saw Naruto, they attacked him, and Ryoku killed them and transferred the bijou into Naruto. Yagura, the Yondaime Mizukage of Kirigakure no Sato, was another unfortunate death. But since the brat was responsible to starting the bloodline purge, surprisingly Naruto killed him almost immediately, and thus helping the rebels gain victory and naming Meitorumi the Go-Dame Mizukage. She tried to get with Ryoku, but turned her down, saying that he had a wife and children on the way, so he had set up a marriage contract between her and Naruto, much to Fu's ire. When they found Utakata, the Jinchuriki of the Rokubi no Namakuji, they also confronted a member of the now disbanded Kiri no Shino Bigatana, Shishinin Shu, 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. The individual who they found had a distinctive shark-like appearance, complete with pale blue-gray skin. He also has small, round, white eyes, gill-like facial markings under his eyes, and actual gills on his shoulders, and sharp triangular teeth, much like the other members of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. He also styled his blue hair in the form of a shark fin. He sported the standard outfit of the village, complete with a flak jacket and a slashed forehead protector. In his hands was a large sword wrapped in bandages and yellow hilt, and at the base of which is a small skull. The man was called Kisame Hashigaki, the man who killed the former leader of the Seven Swordsmen, and for leaking information to enemy villages. Now, he was wearing a black cloak with red clouds, and he stated that he was hunting those that housed beings of great power, which pretty much translated to the Jinchuriki, and that didn't sit too well for the group. So they had a huge battle, but it was Naruto who used a combination of Kokuo's Futon, Gobi, and Son Goku's Yoton, Yanbi, to deliver the final blow and melted him from the inside out. After defeating the Rouge Ninja, Naruto picked up the bandaged sword and the blade bonded with him, thus making him Samahata's next wielder. After the whole ordeal, Utakata Whole heatedly offered to surrender the Rokubi to Naruto since he wanted to live out his days in peace. So Ryoku performed the sealing and Utakata was bijou-free. Kyumo was a different ballgame since they valued their Jinchuriki like they valued those with bloodlines. So, Ryoku had to negotiate with the Raikage, but knew that the man was as stubborn was the current Tsuchikage. So when they met to negotiate, he offered Naruto's hand in marriage to whomever the Raikage decided upon in a Kekkai Genkai, which he called Ryuten or Dragon Release. Upon hearing this, I was baffled as to why would Ryoku give his own bloodline to another village. The Tatsumori responded with that it was gesture of good faith and that those who were chosen for the procedure would have to learn how to use the ancient bloodline on their own, since in Ryoku's words, the experience varied from each individual, so no two Ryuten users were the same. I agreed. When they met the Jinchuriki, Ryoku and his students wanted to shut up the Hachibi Jinchuriki because that inferno rapping was getting annoying and pitted the bijou. When the transfer commenced, the eight-tailed bolted out of its current host and into Naruto, saying that it had had enough of B's failed attempts of rhyming something that the other bijou could sympathize with since their new Jinchuriki was a ramen addict and had the infamous Uzumaki verbal tick. Gyuki didn't seem to mind as long as Naruto didn't rap. When Naruto met the Nibi Jinchuriki, he was almost jumped by said Jinchuriki when her bijou took over its host upon seeing the blonde. But thanks to Ryoku's quick use of a suppression seal, Yujito Ni was able to regain control of her body, and like Utakata, immediately wanted her bijou removed as to avoid another rape attempt. When the process was over, I had offered both Yujito and her sister Samui to be Naruto's future wives, much to the ire of Fu and the shock of the sisters. During their stay in Kyumo, Gaara had his first crush to a red-headed girl with dark mocha skin and an attitude that was one par with its Tsudara. Her name was Karui. At first, the two got off to a rocky start, but after a while, the two hit it off and the two became a couple. Of course, this gave his teammates material to tease him, but since he knew that his teammates were dating each other and that Naruto was engaged to various women throughout the elemental nations, he wasn't one to talk. Anyways, when all 9 bijou were gathered, Naruto and his group then traveled to the final resting place of the Rakuto Sannin, where he had learned the sage's fabled ninjutsu, the Onmyoton, Inyang release. So after reading through various scrolls the sage left behind after his passing, Naruto then performed a technique called Onmyoton. Isho and I, Sabit no Mono, Inyang release. All things come together technique that merged the bijou together to create the true Jubi, with QB being the main aspect. What came to a surprise to him was that the Jubi was female, and she was grateful to the blonde that she allows him unlimited access to her power, which was a lot, and she even gave him the Rinnegan in one of his eyes, which he now covers with an eye patch that can block chakra sensitives, sensors, and even be a Kugan users. On Naruto-kun, how are you this fine morning? The feminine voice asked as she took on human appearance and approached Naruto with a sway in her hips. The woman that now stood before him was 7 feet and 3 inches tall. She had unblemished skin that had a creamy white, with long sliver hair that reached the center of her back. Her eyes were metallic lavender, a perfect heart-shaped face, 2 small fangs jutting from her upper lip, giving her a feral look. She wore a loose kimono with a wolf pattern, which did little to house her massive G-cup breasts. On top of her head were a pair of wolf-like ears, and behind her were 10 long bushy tails. "I'm fine, Katsumi-chan, did you sleep well?" he asked. The now-named Jubi was then draped her arms around his neck and started to kiss his neck, which caused him to moan a bit, and his tool was starting to stand at attention. You mean if I slept through what you and Fuchan did last night? Then no. I was, however, enjoying the show. So do I get a turn? She asked, getting a blush for Naruto, who was stuttering as to how to answer her. Once I find a way to release you from the seal, then we can mate like rabbits in heat for as long as we want, he said to her, making her purr with approval. I look forward to it. I would love to eat out your Fuchan. I wonder what she tastes like, she asked, making Naruto blush at the thought of Katsumi eating out Fu and Food doing the same to her. The very thought made his unit harden, creating a large bulge in his pants, and blood started to drip out his nose. My Naruto-kun, does the image of me eating out Fu excites you? Well, what about me doing the same to Mei or the Ni twins from Kyomo? She said in a saucy tone, making Naruto nose bleed at the though. I gotta go, I can feel Fuchan waking me up by, he said, leaving in a hurry. Katsumi then laughed, while teasing him sure was fun, although, she said, taking a serious posture. I wonder what he would say or do when he finds out about you. Usagi-san, she said as she looked up and saw was a woman in possession of very delicate facial features. She also had extremely long, sweeping white hair that touched the ground. Most noticeable were two brown ear-like horns which stuck out from her head. She possessed the Byakugan and also had a third eye on the center of her forehead that's eyelids parted vertically. Her eyebrows were cut very short, a symbol of nobility, and she wore a dark shade of lipstick on her lips and a dark shade of nail polish on her long fingernails. She wore the transitional high-collared Haim kimono, which was adorned with intricate lines that are gold and purple and tomo running down the center and edges of the gown. The woman was being held by golden chains and had a seal on her chest keeping her in place, thus preventing her from escaping or killing her beloved host. The woman in question was the famed rabbit goddess Kaguya Otsutsuki, and she was furious that she was being treated like some like of animal by the very being she had stolen its fruit from. Why, get out of here, you'll pay for this humiliation that you've brought upon me, she said in an angered tone. On the contrary, my dear, you did steal some of my power and latch yourself onto me, so that if I should appear again, so would you. But what you didn't account for was that I would be in a host, and that host possessing a power seal, such as the Shiki Fuin and a Hack Fuin, she said as she marveled at the seal's ability to change itself to meet the expectations of the host. Kaguya then glared at Katsumi. Then why don't you end me and be done with it, she asked. Katsumi then laughed darkly, which sent shivers down Kaguya's spine. Oh, I would like nothing more than to kill you only to revive you again and repeat the process until I grow bored and just leave you for dead. But I want Naruto-kun's opinion on what to do with you, she said. What does he have to do with any of this, she asked. Because Naruto-kun believes in second chances to those who deserve it, and I feel that you deserve that chance even if I completely oppose it, she said as she started walking away and leaving Kaguya to her thoughts. A second chance was all Kaguya said before meditating on what to do. With Naruto, when Naruto came to, he noticed that the room was full of genuine hopefuls. Some of them caught his attention. The first was a boy who was a member of the Inuzuka clan by his wild appearance, as while clearly human. He has several physical traits more akin to animals. Like most of his clan, he has messy brown hair, sharp black eyes with vertical slit-like pupils, pronounced canine teeth, and nails that he can change into claws. He also has the distinctive red fang markings of the Inuzuka clan on his cheeks. The Inuzuka's attire consisted of dark grayish pants reaching to his calves and a gray, hooded fur-lined coat, with the hood usually placed on his head. The boy also had a small white dog on his head, another indication that the boy was an Inuzuka. The second student that caught his attention was a boy who wore a light gray jacket. He is a fair-skinned ninja and the tallest student in the class. He has dark, bushy, brown hair and dark, narrow eyes. The boy also wears black round sunglasses. This boy also smelled of bugs much similar to Fu, but the smell was different. From the attire, Naruto could make out was that the boy was a member of the Aburame clan, a clan famous for its usage of insects. The next student was female, and she has dark blue hair, fair skin, and gentle facial features. Her hair was in a short, leveled Haim cut style just above her forehead, with chin-length strands framing her face. She wore a cream-colored hooded jacket with a fire symbol on the upper right and left sleeves and fur around the cuffs and hem with navy blue pants. For what he can see, her eyes were pale white, so from that he can assume that she was from the famed Hyuga clan. The next student was a boy, and he has shoulder-length black hair tied in a spiky ponytail and narrow brown eyes. Initially, he wore a simple pair of silver hoop earrings given to him by his father as a way to pass on his will to him. His attire was rather plain, consisting of a green-lined mesh t-shirt under a short-sleeved gray jacket with green edges, adorned on both the sleeves and the back with a circle with a line through it, brown pants and blue sandals. From his laid-back personality, Naruto could tell that he was from the Nara clan, a clan that can use their shadows as weapons and had a high IQ. However, the men of said clan were lazy as all hell. The next boy has spiky, brown hair, swirl marks on his cheeks, and like the rest of his clan, he has a more robust physique. The boy also wears black shorts, a long white scarf, a short-sleeved, green haori, over a light green shirt with his clan's obligatory kanji for food, surishoku, on it, small, hoop earrings, and his legs and forearms were wrapped in bandages. Naruto could clearly see that the boy was from the Akimichi clan, a clan notorious for its body expansion jutsu and their forbidden butterfly. The next student was female, and she's a fair-skinned girl of average height with green eyes. Her most noticeable trait in her appearance is her long, pale blonde hair, which is always seen in a high ponytail with bangs covering the right side of her face. In terms of attire, she's wearing a pair of small silver hoop earrings and purple, fairly revealing clothing. She wore a short purple vest-like blouse with a raised collar, a purple apron skirt that is cut off on the sides and bandages on her stomach and legs. She also wore purple and white elbow warmers with this. Judging from her appearance, Naruto could make out that she was from the Yamanaka clan, a clan known for their ninjutsu. The next was a boy has short, straight black hair and dark eyes, which contrast with his translucent-looking pale skin. He is usually seen carrying a small backpack with his brush, scrolls, and ninja ink in it. He wears a short black and gray jacket with red straps. He also carries a tipless tanto on his back. The rest of his outfit consisted of a high-collared midriff shirt, black pants, shinobi sandals and gloves with his index and thumb fingers exposed, most likely to facilitate the use of his drawing-based techniques. The next student was a girl who has bright pink hair, large green eyes, and fair skin. She wore a red cheapao dress with white circular designs, with or without short sleeves, with a zipper, tight dark green shorts, standard ninja sandals, and a ribbon which she used to accentuate her face. The last was someone he was all too familiar with. The boy in question was the estranged son of Mikoto Uchiha and the late Fugaku Uchiha, Sasuke Uchiha, the supposed last Uchiha, even though there were plenty of Uchiha children in the Tatsumori compound. Sasuke has black eyes as well as black hair with a blue tint to it. His hair is spiky in the back, and he has chin-length bangs that parted down to frame both sides of his face. Sasuke's clothing consisted of the traditional Uchiha clothing, a navy blue, short-sleeved shirt with a high collar and the Uchiha crest on the back and white arm warmers. Despite the negative way he feels about Sasuke, his team along with the 9 he examined had the potential of being genin while the others were doomed to fail. As Naruto had his attention to the 9, he didn't notice that the instructors had come. The first instructor is a man of average height and build. He has black hair that he keeps in a ponytail, dark eyes, and a scar that runs across the bridge of his nose, which he has had since his youth. He wears the standard Konoha shinobi outfit complete with forehead protector, sandals, and flak jacket. His sleeves are also rolled up about 1/4 ways. The other instructor has white shoulder-length hair with a slight hint of blue to it and green eyes. He wore the standard attire of the Konoha ninja, which included flak jacket and forehead protector that he wore like a bandana. These two were Irika Yumino and Mizuki Tujo. The Irika cleared his throat. Okay, everyone, today will be your final day here in the academy. For starting next week, should you pass, you'll be genin of Konoha, and you'll be under the guidance of a jonin instructor. So today, I hope you pass, he said, and began roll call. As he finished, he got to a message that the Hokage had sent him. He read it and was surprised to see who will be graduating with this year's class. Attention everyone. Today we have 3 new students who'll be graduating with you this year, the instructor said, causing the students to yell. How can they be graduating? They never took this class. The pink-haired girl yelled, making everyone cover their ears. They're graduating this year because they've been on an 8-year-long training trip and have come to Konoha to receive their headbands and become Konoha ninjas. Please introduce yourselves, the instructor said, motioning to the 3 who sat together. The redhead stood up. Hello, my name is Gara no Sabaku. I was born in Sunagakure no Sato, but became Ryoku Sensei's second student. My likes are my friends and siblings. My dislikes are my father and those who dare harm my friends. My hobbies include reading and training. My dream is to become the next generation Sannin, Gara said in his monotone voice. Then he sat back down. Then the green-haired girl stood up. Hi, my name is Fun Nanabai. I was born in Takigakure no Sato, but became Ryoka Taicho's third student. My likes are Naruto-kun, my friends, and my sensei. My dislikes are Takigakure itself as a whole, the girls trying to steal my Naruto-kun, and those who hate bugs. My hobbies are spending time with Naruto-kun, training, and collecting new beetles for my colony. My dream is to become the next generation Sannin. She said, getting the Aburame boy was interested in her love for bugs. Then the blonde stood up. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Tatsumori, the adopted son of Ryoku Tatsumori and Ryoka Sensei's first student. My likes are my friends, my family, my girlfriends, and my team. My dislikes are the civilian council of this village, the umbu who wears a dog mask, rapists, child killers, pedophiles, and those who badmouth my Tusan, my team, and my family. My hobbies are training, hanging out with my friends and family. My dream is to become the next generation Sannin, he said, causing the Uchiha boy and Mizuki to glare at him. After they all introduced themselves, the blonde-haired girl asked, why are your dreams the same? Naruto then smirked, because we made it our goal to become something greater than the Kages themselves, Naruto said with a confident smirk. Then Gara stepped in. Our goal is to one day surpass the current Sannin and become something better than they are, he said. Something better? The Aburame asked. Yes, because the current ones, although powerful, are pretty much running the good name of Konoha through the mud, Fuss said. How so? The Nara student asked. First you have Jiraiya the Toad Sage, although a talented hand in sealing, Toad-based ninjutsu, and is head of Konoha's spy network. He's a super pervert with no shame who writes that smut called Aika Aika. Then you have Tsunade, the slug princess. She's powerful, and her medical prowess isn't something to laugh about. She's a drunk and has a debt that just keeps piling up, and she has to evade loan sharks and debt collectors. Then finally, you have Orochimaru, the snake summoner, a prodigy and an intelligent individual, turned traitor for experimenting on humans, completely obsessed with trying to gain immortality. And he also happens to be a gay pedophile, Naruto said, listing the current Sannin off the top of his head. The mention of Orochimaru being a gay pedophile sent shivers down the spines of all male students, some of which moved their hands to cover their ass. And all the Sasuke fangirls feared that their precious Sasuke-kun might be defiled by the gay Sannin. The instructor then cleared his throat, getting their attention. As much as I've enjoyed your introduction and that brief summary of our Sannin, I believe that it's time for the graduation test, so everyone take a seat and get ready. As the tests were being passed around, Mizuki placed a Jinjutsu over the tests of Naruto, Gara, and Fu, hoping to crush their dreams. But when those 3 discovered the Jinjutsu, they broke through it and took their test, making Mizuki grit his teeth, for he had hoped that the fox and his demon brethren wouldn't have known of the illusion. After the tests were done and graded by Irika, they were taken outside for the weapons portion, mainly kunai and shuriken. When the students arrived to the target range, everyone saw 10 target posts and 10 target dummies, each one having a target circle in what would be vital areas on the human body. Irika then explained that they all needed to hit at minimum 5 out of 10 or more in both shuriken and kunai throwing. Also, to make it harder, he also placed dummies with no targets to simulate civilian and/or ally. After explaining what was needed for the test, everyone made a single file line. For the next hour or so, The students practiced their aim on the target's posts and dummies while not to hit the blank dummies. Many of the shinobi clan heirs like Shino, Hinata, and Sasuke managed to make the top 3, while most of the civilian-born children barely made it past this exam, with the exception of Sakura, who somehow only scored 5 out of 10 in both kunai and shuriken throwing and nipping a few of the blank dummies. Finally, it was Team Jinchuriki's turn with Gaara starting up. When he arrived at the starting line, he completely ignored the kunai and shuriken that were provided. At this, Irika questioned the redhead. "Aren't you going to use the tools provided?" Irika asked. Gaara looked at the Chunin proctor and reached for the cork of his gourd. He pulled it out of the gourd and the sand began to come out. "With my ability to manipulate the sand in my gourd, there is no need," he said in his usual monotone as the sand began to separate into individual clumps and formed into kunai and shuriken. "Suna no shuriken jutsu. Suna no kunai jutsu," was all Gaara said before the sand-shaped shuriken and kunai flew to their intended targets. All 20 throwing weapons flew true and hit their marks with deadly accuracy. Then Gaara did something that everyone other than Naruto and Fu hadn't expected. Gaara maneuvered the sand to go into the test dummies, then with a glare, sand spikes burst from the dummies. This scared the Konoha shinobi hopefuls and barely startled Naruto and Fu because during their travels Gaara had employed a similar tactic on many missing nin and bandits. Brutal, yes, but very effective. Gaara then recalled his sand back to his gourd and closed it with the cork. He then turns to a shocked Irika. "So how did I do?" Gaara asked. Irika snapped out of his stupor and marked down Gaara's score. "Why, you did great, and you've earned extra credit for versatility and masterful elemental shape and manipulation, also for your brutality. Since in the real world you only get one chance to kill your enemy before he kills you or your comrades," the Chunin said. Gaara nodded and walked back to Naruto and Fu, smiled at their comrade. As Gaara made his way back, the other students had their own opinion on the redhead. "Troublesome," Shikamaru thought as he knew that the Uchiha would want to pick a fight with the sand user. "That guy looks dangerous. Better make him my ally rather than my enemy," Chiji thought. "I think I found my dream boat. Sorry, Sakura. You can have the emo fag, for I have found something better," Ino thought, quickly getting over her fear. "My bugs are telling me to stay away from him if I'm not planning to make him my ally," Shino thought as he started coming up with a way to befriend the redhead. "That smell that's coming off from his sand. It smells like blood, and the guy smells a tanuki. What kind of mix is that?" Kiba thought, trying to figure out what the tanuki smell means. From what I could see, he barely used any chakra, and from what I could tell from his reserves, is that it's massive, Hinata thought, as she used her Byakugan to gauge the redhead's chakra pool. "CHA, who does he think he is trying to upstage, Sathakan?" were the thoughts of a one pink-haired howler monkey that may have escaped from one of Orochimaru's laboratories. "Gaara no Sabaku. Finally, someone strong for me to fight. Once I defeat the redhead, I can take on him," the emo king thought, believing he has a chance of fighting the sand user. "The Sunagakure Jinchuriki here. Danzo-sama must be made known of this," the root agent Sai thought. Then came Fu's turn. When she arrived at the starting line, she grabbed all 20 throwing weapons, then did something that shocked everyone except for Naruto and Gaara. She sprouted insect-like wings and took to the skies. After getting to a certain height, Fu, with laser-like precision, threw her shuriken and kunai with such momentum that when they hit their targets, they came out through the other side, leaving holes as evidence of where each shuriken and kunai had entered and exited out. Everyone sane for Naruto and Gaara were imitating a fish as she descended from the heavens and landed from where she took off. "How was that?" she asked the stunned instructor. Irika getting his composure back. He marked her score. "Wow. Never knew you could do that," he questioned the green-haired girl. "Well, if you can tell the difference between a scroll and the kunai sealed inside the scroll, and then you can see how I could do that," she said cryptically, but Irika understood what she was implying and just nodded. After getting her score, she ran back to her group and leaped into Naruto's arms with a happy expression. The other students had their own thoughts of the girl. "Women are troublesome. Enough," said Shikamaru thought. I wonder if her ability has anything to do with the aura of beetles that she's giving off. I'll have to investigate on that, Shino thought. Oh great, another one who smells of insects. I hope she isn't anything like Shino, Kiba thought as he mentally groans, thinking that the new girl was going to be anything like the ever-stoic Aburame heir. All right, girl power, thought Ino as she mentally fist-pumped. Gulp? She's scary. Hope I can be friends with her, thought Chuji as he shivered at the mint-haired girl's unique ability. Who does that green-haired bitch think she is trying to impress, my Sasuke-kun, thought a pink-haired transvestite. A bitch worthy for me. Once I make Genin of the Year, I'll go to the civilian council and demand for that girl to be my slave. One emo, though, with delusions of grandeur. While she looks so strong, I wonder if I can be that strong to gain his approval, Hinata thought as she looked at Fu hugging Naruto, hoping to receive the same from her blonde crush. The Nanabai Jinchuriki is also here. Danzo-sama will most definitely be pleased, Sai thought. Finally, it was Naruto's turn. He kissed Fu and made his way to the starting line. While his comrades have shown impressive skill when it came to throwing weapons, Naruto decided to do it with his visible eye closed, while secretly activating his Rinnegan behind his eye patch. He then goes through a series of hand signs, Jiten, Jiki no Ringu, magnet release, rings of magnetism, was all he said as the shurikens and kunai began to levitate and get pulled towards him by a magnetic force, but then started to orbit around him, creating 2 rings. This made everyone minus Gaara and Fu stunned to see the throwing weapons rotate around the blonde. He then launches the shuriken to their intended targets, but not before infusing some wind chakra into each shuriken. The shuriken not only hit their marks, but also sliced right through the targets, cutting them in half and embedded themselves into the wall behind. Out of everyone, except for Gaara and Fu, Irika was shocked as he had never came across someone as young as the blonde to have high mastery in wind chakra manipulation, that the only person that can rival the boy would be the Sandame's own son, Asuma Sarutobi. Naruto then launched the kunais at the target dummies, repeating the same process that was used on the shuriken, getting another perfect score, resulting in the blonde getting a 100% on both shuriken, and kunai throwing plus extra credit for elemental manipulation with his use of wind chakra and his magnet release. What? Screeched the howler monkey, forcing everyone to cover their ears to lessen the pain from her screaming. Irika-sensei, there's no way those 3 losers could have scored better than Sasuke-kun. They must have cheated. Make them do it. The Haruno would have continued until she was surrounded by Naruto and his teammates, posed to end her life. Gaara had his sand crawling up her legs. Fu had her hidden blades positioned where her heart and vocal cords are, and Naruto had his bandaged sword at her neck ready to decapitate her. Everyone was shocked because no one saw them move. 1 second they were yards away, and then they appeared with their weapons drawn and ready to kill the pink-haired girl. Listen here, little girl, and listen well, began Naruto. While you were playing ninja, we were already killing bandits and low to high ranking missing nin. While you were reading textbooks, we were put through survival training in some of the harshest environments on the planet. While you were taught about the great shinobi wars, we took part in the Kirigakure Civil War and brought victory to the rebellion by killing the Yonde Mizukage. And while you were taught who the Kages of Konoha were, we met the Godame Mizukage Meitorumi, Yondame, Reikijai, Sandame Tsuchikage Inoki, and the Yondame Kazakage Raza. So if I were you, I'd shut up before we add your weak corpse to our ever-growing body count. Naruto said, shocking everyone, because the blonde had given the whole class a short summary of their experiences outside of the walls of Konoha. Irika then cleared his throat, getting their attention. As much as I appreciate you 3 shutting her up, could you please let her go? It would be bad if the civilian council got wind of this, Irika said, trying to reason with Ryoka's students. The 3 then stared at Irika for a few seconds, then retracted their respective weapons. We fear the civilian council like we fear the trees. They aren't a threat and can't do a damn thing to us, Naruto said, shooting a glare at the girl before leaving with his group. The Genin hopefuls had their own thoughts of the blonde. Troublesome blondes, thought Shikamaru, as he knew that given who Naruto is related to, the last Uchiha would challenge him. I think Uzumaki-san is scarier than the other two. I really need to become their ally, Chuji thought, because after seeing their performance, with the throwing weapons and shut up Sakura, it terrified him to no end. Wow, someone finally shut up Sakura. Is world coming to an end? The sky is still blue, and hell hasn't broken loose, so that actually happened, though Ino, as she looked up at the sky, seeing it clear blue and not hellish red. My beetles are picking up a strong, but very unusual chakra from him, thought Shino. What's up with this scent? It's like an alpha, and I can smell a mix of different animal scents, but the scent of wolf stands out more, Kiba thought. And Naruto-kun, you've changed since I last saw you. I hope you still remember me, though Hinata, still remembering when a young Naruto saved her from bullies. What does that baka think he is? When this is over, I'll report him to the civilian council and have him and his little band banished, thought Sakura as she regained her composure. Naruto, you. Tatsumori, why did the dragon Sannin take you, a clan less loser, when he could have taken me, an Uchiha elite, as a student? When this is over, I'll demand the council to force him to give me everything you have, starting with your green-haired bitch. She'll be useful in reviving my clan, though a one crazy spoiled Uchiha. 3 Jinchuriki. Danzo-sama will be most pleased to hear that 3 potential weapons are available here in Konoha, thought Sai. After all was said and done, Irika graded Naruto's test, then moved on to the taijutsu portion of the exam, in which the students had to fight each other in a one-on-one match. Irika explained the rules of the mock battle, and everyone agreed to the rules, and all the students waited their turn. First was the girls' portion, which started with Fu versus Sakura, and it was going to be disappointing to say the least. The head of the Sasuke fan club began screeching nonsense about earning her precious Sasuke-kun's love, while Fu wanted to find the nearest tree and beat her head against it, while thinking how low were the standards of this academy to allow fangirls to become shinobi. She was hoping to fight the Hyuga girl, because at least she would have put up a decent fight. The boys, some of the girl and the instructor's sweat dropped, but agreed that this was going to be over rather quickly. Naruto then put his hand on Fu's shoulder and whispered in her ear, just go with it. And after these exams are over, we can go on that date I promised last night, and a little extra, he said, making her blush. She moved to the area and stared at her opponents, seeing as not even a warm-up. All right, are you two ready? Irika asked, getting a nod from both girls. Hey, Jime, he said, starting the match. Sakura then spoke in a smug tone. When I win, Sasuke-kun will fall in love with me and prove that true love conquers all, she said, making everyone's sweat drop, and thought, the fuck is wrong with this bitch? Fu, with a bored expression, got in her fighting stance and said in an equally bored tone, yeah, sure, whatever, you like the emo king. Can we please get this over with? My man promised me a date, and I would like to go somewhere tonight this century, she said. Sakura then said, yeah, right. You're not really dating blonde Nobaka. You're just saying that to make my Sasuke-kun jealous so that he would love you instead of me. His one true love, she said again, making everyone's sweat drop. Fu sighed, then said, I'm not going to betray my boyfriend so that I can get with the emo king. So shut up and fight, she said, getting irritated having to hear her opponent's failed attempts to anger her. The idiot fangirl then decided to say something that Naruto, Gaara, and Ryoku had labeled the forbidden word, bring Ton Marimo, Mosshead. Once that word was spoken, both Naruto and Gaara had a similar though running through their mind, that is one dead bitch. Fu's face adopted a darkened tone, and then she asked, what did you just call me? Hoping to hear the excuse to pummel this stupid fangirl into the ground. The fangirl then answered Oromo. Bang! The fangirl was kicked into the ground, leaving a 5-foot crater. This scared everyone minus Naruto and Gaara, who merely whistled at their teammates' handiwork. Sakura was then rushed to the hospital with extensive injuries, mostly broken bones. But fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, she was still able to participate in the graduation exams. Getting back to the matches, Ino defeated her opponent thanks to her training from her father. Hinata won her fight thanks to her knowledge in the Juken, Gentle Fist. The other fights were nothing but a bunch of fangirls slap fighting, scratching each other, and pulling each other's hair. Now, then came the boys' turn. First was Shikamaru versus Chuji, which ended in a draw because they both forfeited. Kiba defeated Shino, if only barely. Then came the battle between Gaara and Sai. Both Naruto and Fu felt sorry for the pale boy and hoped to any deity that would listen that he didn't do or say anything that would set Gaara off. Unfortunately, the gods couldn't answer the prayer right now. "Hello, Shorty. I bet your dick matches your stature," Sai said, making Naruto and Fu back away a bit because the pale fool just said the forbidden word, and to make it worse, he also insulted his manhood. Gaara didn't say anything. Instead, everyone saw was Sai being launched into the air and Gaara standing where Sai once stood with his right arm and fist raised, showing that he had giving Sai an uppercut. Then Gaara appeared over Sai, then delivered a drop kick that sent Sai into the ground head first. When Sai collided with the ground, Gaara landed on the ground next to the now unconscious Sai. "Insult my stature or my manhood again, and I'll kill you and send your mangled corpse back to whoever gives a damn about you. Is that clear?" Gaara said, only getting a weak grunt from Sai. Gaara accepted it as an affirmative that Sai got the point. After that display, Gaara made it very clear, "Do not make fun of my stature or my manhood." After Gaara left, and Sai was taken to the hospital for a broken jaw and a minor concussion. However, same with Sakura, he was still able to attend the graduation exams. Now, the fight between Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Yu Tatsumori had finally come. Fu kissed her boyfriend and wished him best of luck on his fight with the arrogant form son of Mikoto Yu Tatsumori and the unacknowledged stepson of Ryoku Tatsumori. As Naruto entered the ring, he noticed the scowl that Sasuke was giving him and asked himself, what did he ever do to him? As Sasuke entered the ring, his fangirls led by Sakura Haruno cheered for the last Uchiha to win against the blonde, while Fu and Hinata were cheering for Naruto to claim victory over the Emo King. Once they stepped into the ring, Sasuke's anger finally to the better of him. "Why did Ryoku take you as a student when he should have taken me, an Uchiha elite?" he asked. Wonder why the dragon Sannin would take a nobody instead of him. Naruto scoffed. "Maybe it's because he adopted me when everyone else was afraid to do so, or maybe it's because my biological parents had entrusted me to him should anything happen to them. Whatever the reason, it doesn't matter. He's been more like a real father to me, and his wife my mother, and there's no way in hell I'll ever give that up," Naruto said, giving him a one-eyed glare. Sasuke fumed. "That bitch that claims to be his wife is a traitor to the Uchiha clan, and my father should have killed her when he had the chance," he said angrily. Naruto tensed a bit at hearing this brat calling his adoptive mother a bitch, but chose to restrain himself. Then Sasuke decided to add the final nail to his pre-verbal coffin. "And those little children that she bared with him are an abomination and should be killed for even being related to the likes of me," he said arrogantly. Once that was said, all hell broke loose. Naruto disappeared from everyone's view and reappeared behind the Uchiha. Before Sasuke could respond, Naruto elbowed him in the back of the head, sending him flying, only for Naruto to grab him by his left ankle to be dragged back to him, only to receive a karate chop to the chest, sending him to the ground hard. The Uchiha was unconscious at the end of what appeared to be a very short fight. However, the same could be said about the rest of his team. Both Gaara and Fu had ended their battles fairly quick instead of dragging out, where they would run the risk of tiring out, leaving them vulnerable. Naruto then picked up the unconscious Uchiha by the collar of his shirt. "I know you can hear me, you worthless piece of shit. So I'll make this as clear as I could be. Insult my family again, threaten to hurt my family again, and I'll correct the mistake that Itachi made the night he left your worthless hide alive. I hope you take this warning to heart, because next time I won't give you a warning," he said before he dropped the last loyal Uchiha. As Naruto made his way to his teammates, Sakura and the rest of the Uchiha fangirls sang for Ino threw a hissy fit, saying that Naruto had cheated, but was silenced by Irika, who said that the fight was fair and that the Uchiha had provoked Naruto into attacking him the way he did. Sasuke was taken to the medic, where he was treated for a minor concussion, cracked, and bruised ribs. However, same as Sai and Sakura, he was still able to partake in the graduation exams. Irika then told everyone that they had an hour for lunch before the ninjutsu portion to begin, so Naruto and his team left to eat Ichiraka ramen stand where Naruto and the Ichiraka family had a big reunion and a small welcome back party to celebrate, which involved free ramen. Ayam was shocked to see that her little Naruto had grown to be a young man and was ogling while also sending a challenging glare at Fu, who was doing the same while hanging off his left arm. An hour later, everyone had returned to the academy to partake in the ninjutsu portion of the exams. Now we find Naruto and the newly appointed Genin Gaara, who decided to wrap his headband around one of the straps that holds his gourd on his back, and Fu, who wears her headband around her left bicep. Now it was finally Naruto's turn. Entering the room, he sees Irika and Mizuki inside the room waiting for him. Okay, Naruto, your final exam consists of the following 3 jutsu. Hinge no jutsu, transformation jutsu, Kourmi no jutsu, substitution jutsu / body replacement, and the Bunshin no jutsu, clone jutsu, in the order that they were listed. You may begin whenever you're ready, Irika informed the blonde. The next thing both of the instructor Chunin noticed was they were staring into the face of Naruto's adoptive father, the dragon Sannin, Ryoku Tatsumori. I didn't even see a hand sign. The speed and timing were spot on, and the transformation itself is absolutely flawless, thought and amazed Irika, as Naruto reverted back to his original form. Very good, Naruto. Now show us the Kourmi no jutsu, Irika said, getting a nod from the blonde Sannin hopeful. Naruto then vanished as they saw a familiar orange book in place where Naruto was with said teen appearing overhead again, shocking the two instructors. Not only another flawless demonstration, but he also has superb chakra control, thought Irika, as he marked another prefect score for Naruto. All right, Naruto, return to your original position so that we may get to the last part of the exam. And I have to ask, why do you have an Ika book? Asked the Scar instructor as Naruto jumped to where the book laid. The blonde then picked up the book and placed it back into his weapon's pouch. It was Fu's idea, and even though it's utterly complete smut, it does give us some ideas of what to do in terms of what positions to try out, he said with a blush on his face, and the two instructors were shocked that the kid in front of them, who was not even out of his teen years, had sex with his female teammate. Lucky bastard, both instructors thought in unison. Irika was the first to recover as he cleared his throat. All right, Naruto, now that last thing you need is to do is create 3 perfect clones, he said. Sensei, I'm pretty sure you already know this by now, like Gaara and Fu were chakra powerhouses, so we can't perform the normal Bunshin no jutsu. So instead I'll do another type of clone, he said, crossing his fingers. He knows another type of clone jutsu. I wouldn't be surprised given the fact as to who trained him, the Scar instructor thought. Kage Bunshin no jutsu, shadow clone jutsu, the blonde said as 3 puffs of smoke appeared behind Naruto, which then cleared, revealing 3 perfect replicas of the caster. Amazing. He knows the Kage Bunshin no jutsu. Even more evidence of his time with Ryoku, Irika thought as he marked down a score for Naruto. Congratulations, Naruto-san. You pass with flying colors, Irika said as he handed Naruto a headband with a black cloth. Naruto took the headband and wrapped it on his forehead and walked out of the room with his head held high as he joined his squad. Damn it, the demon brat and his little band passed. Now I have to steal the scroll myself, thought Mizuki bitterly as he watched Naruto rejoin his team. A little while later, Irika stood in front of the classroom looking at all the newly minted genin with a proud look to his face. Congratulations to all those who graduated this year. And for those who didn't make the cut, better luck next year. Now, to all those who graduated, you have a week off before meeting back here for team placements, as well as meeting your Jonin senseis. Until then, you all enjoy your time, because starting next week, your career as full-fledged shinobi and your times of rest will be few and far between, Irika said as he watched the students leave to their families to tell them that they've succeeded or failed, while Naruto, Gaara, and Fu left for the Tatsumori compound. Later that night, Mizuki ran through the forest with the village's forbidden scroll strapped to his back, and right behind him were several dragons chasing after him. Damn it, I thought I would get away so easily, but with these things right behind me, Mizuki thought, until someone got in his way, forcing him to stop. Looking at the one who's blocking his path, he scowled. Oh, looky here, the demon brat. In front of him was Naruto in his shinobi outfit, which was similar to Ryoku's in terms of design, and on his back was his trusty Samehada. Oh great, another reason why I hated this village to begin with, thought Naruto, as he folded his arms in front of his chest and gave in a one-eyed stare. I was having a wonderful night with my Fuchan. That is until one of Gigi's, Umbu, showed up at my door explaining to me the situation, although Fuchan wasn't too thrilled about hearing what had happened, since she was so close. Naruto said as a small blush appeared on his face. Before Mizuki could say anything, Gaara and Fu appeared in his flanks, covering his escape routes, only to be joined by a squad of Umbu led by Nico, and both the Sandame and Tatsu Sannin to appeared with them. This made Mizuki very nervous because the demon brat and his squad were bad enough. But a whole squad of Umbu-leveled shinobi and 2 Kage-leveled shinobi was a death sentence. You can't run, Mizuki, so turn yourself in, and I promise you that your sentence will be less severe, warned Sarutobi as the Umbu reached for their weapons in case Mizuki were to try anything. Good work, Naruto, Gaara, and Fu, Ryoka said, praising his students. Thank you, Sensei, they said in union. Damn you, demon brat. If you haven't gotten in the way, then I would have given this scroll to Orochimaru-sama for him to use to destroy this pathetic village. Mizuki sneered as he revealed his intentions. Ryoku then appeared behind Mizuki and stabbed him with his sharpened claws right through his heart. Mizuki coughed up some blood and looked at the hand protruding from where his heart is located. Then he looked back to see an angry Tatsumori. Thank you for revealing such wonderful information. Now I can deal with a traitor like you the way Orochimaru will be treated should he ever set foot in Konoha. Exterminated with extreme prejudice and with no mercy, he said as he pulled his hand out of Mizuki's chest, took the scroll from his dying body, and ordered his dragons to dispose of the dying traitor. The dragons then lunged at Mizuki and started eating him. Ryoku and his team then appear in front of the Hokage and present to him the stolen scroll. The mission has been accomplished, Hokage-sama, Ryoku said in a respectful tone. Nico then took the scroll and shined, body flicker technique, back to the Hokage mansion to place the scroll back in the vault. Very good, Team Tatsumori. I'll be sure to play the 4 of you an S-rank mission. But for now, I believe we should all retire for the night since, after all, Ryoka, you have a big day tomorrow since you'll be coronet to being the Godame Hokage, Hizuzen said before shining back to his home. Ryoka sighed and turned to his team. All right, let's follow his example and return back home, he said, getting a nod from all 3, and thus all 4 shine back to the Tatsumori compound for some sleep and for 2 couples a night of congratulatory sex. Chapter 3, Graduation, Coronation, and Sensei Assigned. Part 2. Morning has come. The sun was shining down upon the village of Konoha, and every citizen, whether it is civilian or shinobi, were gathered outside the Hokage manor. Why, you may ask? Because today someone was going to be given the title of Godame Hokage of Konoha, and everyone was eagerly waiting to see who was selected to succeed Hizuzen Sarutobi as leader of the village. The only ones who knew were Mikoto and her children, Naruto, Gaara, and Fu, because Mikoto was the man's husband, Satsuki and Setsuna, the name of the twins, were his daughters, and Naruto. Gaara and Fu were his students during their time outside the village walls for 8 years. Inside the mansion, just feet away from the exit which led to the balcony, Hizuzen and Ryoka were talking to each other before he was to step out and announce his successor. Ryoka-san, I know you can do this. I couldn't have picked an even more worthy successor than you. With the help of the daimyo, of course, the old man said, trying to calm the unnervous Tatsumori. I know, Sir Tobidano, but leading an entire village isn't the same as leading a genin team or a squad of Umbu. I don't know if I'm ready for the responsibility, he said as he fidgeted in the Hokage robes. Ryoku, I felt the same way when Tobirama-sensei selected me to succeed him during the Second Great Shinobi War, but I knew I had a duty that only I can fulfill, and now I pass on the torch to you, Ryoka-san, he said, puffing his chest. You're just saying that so you can get out of doing paperwork, aren't you? Ryoku asked with a deadpan look. Well, there is that. The ex-Hokage said, avoiding the Tatsumori's gaze and Ryoku pinching the bridge of his nose to stem the headache that was fastly approaching. "Ladies and gentlemen, my predecessor," the dragon Sannin said with a sigh. "Shoo, let me savor this moment. A moment I've only felt once when I gave Minato-kun the mantle, and now I can finally enjoy my retirement," Hizuzin said as he enjoyed what'll soon be his retirement as Hokage. "Shut up, old man, and get on with the ceremony. The faster you make me Hokage, the sooner you can begin your retirement," Ryoku stated to hurry the old man onto the balcony to begin the coronation. "All right, impatient much?" he retorted as he walked onto the balcony overseeing the village. Down below, he can see that every civilian and shinobi has arrived to see their new Hokage be named. "People of Konoha, it is with great sorrow that I must hang up my hat as Hokage, but fear not, for I will not leave the village without a leader to take my place. The man who will succeed me was chosen not just by me, but by the daimyo himself, as he's one of the few that can surpass our beloved Yondaime in both strength and intellect. He's fought alongside the Yondaime during the Third Great Shinobi War and has acquired a SS rank alongside Minato-kun, and even he told me that this man was his equal and would one day surpass him if he were still around to this day." The aged man stated, making everyone wonder who was selected because very few could match the Yondaime Hokage, and even fewer were considered his equal and rival. The only ones who knew were Mikoto, her children, the Uchiha survivors, and Team Tatsumori. "The person whom I've selected is the one who became the fourth member to the formerly known Sannin and made it into the Yonnin of Konoha, and has been titled by both friend and foe, the Dragon of the Leaf. I present to you Ryoku Tatsumori, the Godaime Hokage of Konoha," the old man said as he moved away from the balcony as Ryoku appeared behind him and stepped forward to face the populace of his village. He took off the hat so that everyone can get a better look at the man who's been given the title of Hokage. At first, there was silence, but then Mikoto and the Uchiha Tatsumori children cheered at seeing Ryoku as the new Hokage. Then came his now former Genin team, then was followed by the shinobi clans, then everyone cheered for their new Hokage, except for the advisor for not being told of this in Danzo, because he wanted the title, and the members of the civilian council who knew the man's connection with the demon brat, but refused to say anything because Ryoku, being the fourth member of the Yonnin, thus the strongest shinobi currently living in Konoha, and with the political backing with his own clan and his wife's clan, and having good connections with the current clan heads of Konoha, made him the perfect candidate for Hokage. So, losing his chance of claiming the title of Hokage, again Danzo started to formulate a plan to off this foreigner, because in Danzo's opinion, only Konoha-born should be named Hokage, not this foreigner filth whose sole purpose was to be breeding stock to create more Tatsumori babies, to make Konoha great and rule all other villages with an iron fist. So now he'll focus his efforts to snatch the two offspring of both Tatsumori and Uchiha blood and turn them into his root puppets. This, however, didn't go unnoticed, for within the crowd was a dragon with a very unique ability. The dragon has the ability to zero in on a specific target and read the target's mind. The dragon itself was small, about the size of your average house cat. However, its ability is what sets it apart from other dragons within the summoning realm. After all, if the prey can detect the predator's ill intent, it could evade capture and being preyed upon. The dragon looked like a cross between a small fox and a dragon. The phoenix dragon, as it was called, are mostly a nocturnal species, but would come out during the day only for brief periods of time. For their size, they have some of the largest set of ears, perfect to listen to the minds of its target. The dragon's body was scaly like most dragons, but had a thin layer of cream-colored fur with a black tip on its tail. Another thing that made this dragon so unique was its ability to camouflage itself by changing the pigmentation on its scales to match the surrounding. All in all, this dragon was perfect for spying. Because of its shape and size, many people will dismiss it as a fox kit looking for its mother. The dragon grinned at the information he was getting for his master on what this soon-to-be oust traitor was planning to do to this master's children. "Got you," the dragon mentally said as he faded back into the crowd and back to its summoner. Ryoka looked down at the people as they cheered. He then senses a weight appears on his shoulders and sees a shimmer. The phoenix dragon from earlier nodded to its summoner, and her nodded back. The newly named Godame Hokage raised his hands to quiet the crowd so that he may speak. The crowd grew quiet, and Ryoku put his hands down. My good people of Konohagakure no Sato, I am both proud and honored to have been named your new Hokage. I know that some, if not most of you, may believe I'm not ready for the task of Hokage. However, I'll do everything within my power to prove that not only will I prove that I'm qualified to be the Hokage, but show that I can raise the expectations set before me by my predecessors. It will be challenging, however. Challenge is a dragon with a gift in its mouth. Tame the dragon, and the gift is yours. What this means is that once I take on this challenge, I'll do whatever it takes to see it successfully done, thus reaping the rewards of seeing what I've done come to pass from this day forward. I, Ryoku Tatsumori, shall lead and protect this village as its Godame Hokage, he said, getting everyone cheering again. The Tatsumori walked back into the hall, but stopped Umbu. He called, then two masked ninja appeared behind him. Hi Hokage-sama, they said in unison. Summon the council. I don't care if they're showering or taking a dump, I want them in the council chamber 30 minutes from now. Also send someone to retrieve my students Naruto, Gaara, and Fu, for this meeting will involve them. You have your orders, now go, he said, as the two disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Ryoku then bit his left thumb and traced it on a dragon tattoo on his right forearm, Kuchios no Jutsu, Naragakuga Shuryo Patty, summoning Jutsu. Nargakuga hunting party, cried Ryoku, summoning his dragons. Then 3 plumes of smoke appeared before him. As it dissipated, 3 figures stood before him. The first has black scales, black fur, and nightmarish red eyes, giving it the look and style of a predatory black panther. Its dark, feral appearance suggests that it may mainly be a nocturnal predator. The second dragon is covered in mossy green fur. Its long, prehensile tail ends in a bright red spike, and its eyes are a bright yellow. The third was larger than the other 2 and was covered in scars to prove that this dragon has fought other members of its species for control over the hunting pack. The dragon has metallic, azure scales and a golden-colored chest. These were Kuga, Midoriya, Green, and Lucent, better known as the Nargacuga trio, the best hunters in the entire dragon realm. 2 smaller ones bowed their heads while Lucent stared at their summoner. Ryoku, why did you summon us? The larger dragon asked, wondering why Ryoku had summoned them. Ryoku then reached into his robes and pulled out a blank Umbu mask. I want you to smell this mask and trace it back to its origin. Then once you do, kill every single root Umbu you come across. Also be sure to retrieve any information I could use to pin various activities to not only Danzo, but to everyone on the civilian council and the advisors. There is something corrupted about those people, and I don't trust them as much as the Shinobi Council, he said, getting a low chuckle from the 3 dragons before him. Kill everyone. What about abducted children? Midoriya asked, as she hated the thought of killing innocent children. If they haven't been indoctrinated by the root, then do what you can to save them. But if they're too far gone, the best you can do is put them out of their misery quickly, Ryoku said, seeing the green dragon's ears lower, showing that she hoped that they could still be saved. How are we going to gather any information? We haven't got any hands, remember, Kuga said in a smart alkyl tone. Ryoku then crossed his fingers together. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he said, creating a clone of himself. Here is the solution to your information gathering problem. You have your assignments, now go, he said, as the dragons vanished in blurs along with the shadow clone. Ryoku smiled. Today is going to be the start of your end, civilian council trash, shitty advisors, and war hawk turned traitor, he said with every bit of hatred he could muster before making his way to the council chamber. Council chambers. Ryoku sat at the very center of a large table formation with 2 rows of tables, one on each side. Left was the shinobi side, while the right was civilian with the advisor tables behind his person. 5 minutes later, after issuing the Umbu to gather the council, the shinobi council, consisting of the Hyuga, Aburame, Yamanaka, Akimichi, Inazuka, Kurama, Sarutobi, Nara, and Uchiha Tatsumori clans, with only the Senju and Uzumaki clans missing their clan heads, However, after today's council meeting, he hopes to fill the spot in with Naruto becoming the new Uzumaki clan head. The Shinobi Council came in along with the advisors and Danzo. The bandage man glared at the newly named Hokage, but plotted to take his children away and turn them into soldiers for him to use. As they all got seated, the Umbu appeared along with Ryoka's former team. Hokage-sama Naruto, Uzumaki, Gaara no Sabaku, and Fu are here, Tora said, announcing their arrival. Ryoka nodded. Thank you, Tora, you may leave, Ryoka said, getting a hi from his Umbu before they left. What is that thing doing here? Asked Koharu with a sneer, only to receive a blast of Ki curtsy of the Godame Hokage. I would advise you not to insult my adopted son in my presence, or I will have you be Sentai/T with your chakra sealed, and have Anko and Ibiki to use method level 5. Ryoku said, getting everyone in the room to shiver with fear, because torture method level 5 was banned for its sheer brutality, which had a fatality rate of 95%. This made everyone wide-eyed because no one expected Ryoku to threaten someone with such a horrendous means of torture, especially Mikoto, who never saw her husband, who has always shown love and happiness around her. Koharu sank in her seat, avoiding Ryoku's gaze. The Tatsumori then cleared his throat and faced the Shinobi Council. Well, since the Civilian Council isn't here yet, I would like to discuss a very important Shinobi affair, one that involves my adopted son Naruto and my student Gaara, he said, getting the council's attention. And what will that be, Hokage-sama? Asked Shikaka Nara. Naruto here wishes to take up his role as the new clan head of the Uzumaki Namikaze clans. Ryoku said before he could continue. The two elderly people behind him started to shout. Namikaze! Hamura and Koharu yelled, while Danzo seethed of not getting the Jinchuriki when he had the chance. Hokage-sama, this boy is a demon. He's the spawn of the Kyuubi and not of our, Koharu said, but was stopped when she was tackled by a black blur and was pinned to the back wall. Everyone saw a large body looming over the old councilwoman and shivered in fear at the sight of the dragon. The dragon possessed 6 limbs, including the clawed wings on its back. Its body is covered in dark exoskeleton plates, with notable features including the hidden feelers that are folded alongside its face, the lack of visible eyes and fanged jaws that are actually parts of its external armor plates. The other unique part is its wings, which are covered in jet black fur that resemble a tattered and ragged cape. The claws on its wings are extremely prehensile and even seem to possess opposable thumbs and Gormagala. The dragon looked ready to devour a very frightened Koharu until it was stopped. Gore. That's enough. She isn't worth eating, and beside, I won't want you to get a severe case of indigestion because of eating tainted meat, the Hokage said nonchalantly, as if he were talking about the weather. The beast turned to Ryoku. As you wish, although tearing her apart and feeding her to the Tigrex clan would be a fitting end since they'll eat anything, the black dragon said in a deep feminine voice. Ryoku snickered. That may be true. However, even they have standard when it comes to food quality, and even the Deviljo won't even give her corpse a second glance. And that's saying something, the Hokage said, and the dragon walked until he was next to Ryoka. Then it laid itself down with its massive head on his lap.